It's game night in Waco, Texas, and Baylor's freshman line is on the run. Oh, they run with speed. They run with force and quickness because that's how they do things at Baylor.
Speed is distance traveled per unit time. A fast football player will cover the field in a very short amount of time. Momentum depends on mass. The larger the mass of the football player, the larger the momentum. If speed meets force, and force acts for a period of time, we have what we call impulse. If the impulse is large enough and the force acts for enough time, the speed of the football player can be brought to zero. If the momentum is great enough, either because the mass is large or because the speed is large, then an impulse won't be enough to stop momentum.
Oh, it's a night of speed here on Fox College Football, presented by Geico. And from the Big 12, it's West Virginia and Baylor. Craig Bolerjack, Joey Harrington, Ryan Neese will join us in just a moment. And Dr. Harrington, speed, quickness, we'll see it all here tonight because that's Art Briles' offense here with Baylor.
Yeah, I don't know much physics right now, but I know that this team has a lot of speed. Speed all over the place. Outside, the best tandem of wide receivers in the country, in my opinion, Tevin Reese, Antoine Goodley. These guys can flat out run. But you know what? If you focus too much on these guys and start playing coverage, there's a guy who's got some speed in the backfield, and his name is Lake Seastrunk. Not only can he run, he can dance a little bit too. Hey, Professor Neese, how on earth can you stop this Baylor offense's momentum?
I like that, Joey, Professor Neese, because I did my own research, and I called up some former NFL greats, guys like Ronnie Lott, Derek Brooks, and Rondé Barber, and said, hey, fellas, how do you slow down this spread, up-tempo offense of Baylor? And they all said it takes force and pressure. And when I think about pressure, I look at a guy like Will Clark, the defensive end for the Mountaineers. This guy comes off the edge. He's a very aggressive player, puts pressure on the quarterback. And when I think about force, I think about a kid, Darwin Cook. This guy in the secondary flies around, he makes plays, he's aggressive. He has to make plays in space and tackle. The entire team does if they want to slow down Baylor here tonight.
Ryan, last season we saw a lot of speed, and it wasn't stopped by force as these two teams played a wild one in Morgantown, combining for over 1,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. In the end, a 70-63 win for West Virginia. What will these two teams do for an encore? We'll find out next. Floyd Casey Stadium in Waco, Texas. Unbeaten Baylor takes the field tonight. It is a cloudy, cool October night in Central Texas. Dana Holgerson is the head coach of the visiting West Virginia Mountaineers, third year in Morgantown, 20-11 overall record. His counterpart tonight, Art Briles. He runs the show here in Waco, 3-0. But the Bears, really, Joey, their first true test tonight comes against this West Virginia defense.
Yeah, Baylor has put up mind-boggling numbers on offense this year, but the knock has been they really haven't played anybody of significance yet. Buffalo, Wofford, Louisiana Monroe are the only three teams they've faced this year. This is their first chance to play against a Big 12 team, and we're going to see how they show up.
West Virginia won the toss. They deferred. So Baylor will receive to start this game. Keep an eye on the wind tonight. Really has blown around, going left to right. So Baylor will get the first try at the football tonight, 3-0. They have ran over their first three opponents, averaging nearly 70 points a game. They've got the gold hats on tonight, and with the wind behind his back, no return for Clay Fuller. So on the field is Bryce Petty. Last week, or I should say 2 weeks ago, against Louisiana Monroe, 357 yards, Joey, 4 touchdowns. What's amazing Baylor, this will be only their second game in a month. In fact, just 77 plays from the line of scrimmage over the last nearly 4 weeks of football.
Yeah, you have to wonder if there's going to be a little bit of rust on Bryce Petty's arm, but up to this point in the season, he's been nothing short of spectacular. Leads the country in passing efficiency. You saw the numbers there. He's just controlled this offense with precision.
On the first play, it's Petty on a quick pitch near side. And the catch taken and knocked out of bounds, 37-yard line, and Tevin Reese impact players tonight.
Well, you know what? You saw Tevin get the ball there, but Antoine Goodley and Lake Seastrunk can get the ball quite a bit as well. And on defense for West Virginia, Darwin Cook, keep an eye on him from the secondary. He's got to make big plays.
A first down on the first play. This time off the right side, Seastrunk, who averages 11 yards a touch on the ground, will pick up 2 yards, and he's knocked down by Golson and the free safety, who is a hard hitter in Carl Joseph. Baylor's offense averages 76 plays a game. Quickly back to work, up top, man coverage, splits the defense. There's the speed of Goodley, runs it in, 3 plays. Baylor finds the end zone.
When we had a chance to talk to the defensive coordinator for West Virginia, Coach Patterson, he said, we must stay sound vertical and force them to throw the ball horizontal. Throw it to the sideline. That's not staying sound vertical right now. That is just such a difficult task against this Baylor offense. They have weapons and speed all over the place. That looked pretty vertical and pretty fast to me.
Aaron Jones will try the PAT. He's knocked in 135 in a row, make it 136. And just like that, you blink an eye, 40 seconds off the clock here to open the game, and Goodley goes 61 yards and a Baylor lead of 7.
Well, you know what? There's a little miscommunication there by the West Virginia defense. Lake Seastrunk motioned out of the backfield, and they bumped with him and didn't replace. The corner went out to cover Lake. Nobody went out to jam Goodley off the line of scrimmage, and he had a free run at that secondary.
Art Briles told us this team is hungry. They are focused. He said, look, these teeth of mine aren't real. They've been knocked down a few times. And I'm going to keep this team focused. And Joey, impressive. 40 seconds of football in the end zone.
Pretty routine for Baylor, though. That's the scary part, is this is just what they've been doing all year long.
Well, the critics would say, look, and nothing against the likes of Buffalo and Wolford and Louisiana Monroe, but the critics would say, let me see you play someone. And now this is the conference opener tonight in Big 12 play.
Well, this is the test. This is the start of the test for Baylor. And like you said, their first real opponent. They're going to start getting some real opponents here. Late, especially late in this schedule. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, Texas Tech. They got some real meat in this Big 12 schedule coming up in a bit.
And the 12th time this season they have scored a touchdown in under a minute. Lightning strikes early in Waco. Aaron Jones tees it up into the wind. Short kick, takes a wild hop and takes a left turn out of bounds at the 11-yard line.
Kickoff out of bounds by the kicking team. The ball will be placed at the 35-yard line, 1st and 10.
Our referee tonight, Reggie Smith. And so good field position for West Virginia as they start their first series with Clint Trickett. A transfer out of Florida State.
Exactly. People may remember him coming into a ball game for injured E.J. Manuel a couple years ago. Transferred from Florida State in May and really has not had a whole lot of time to learn this Dan Holgerson offense.
On first down, over the top they go. Beautiful catch right at midfield, and out jumping the coverage is Kevin White. Let's check the impact players on both sides of the ball.
Well, for West Virginia, Charles Sims out of the backfield. You're going to see him running the ball. You're going to see him catching the ball. This guy has pro potential. On the defensive side of the ball, Ahmad Dixon, Bryce Hager fly sideline to sideline and are not afraid to hit people.
A pickup of 18. A first down for the Mountaineers. Off the left side, they give it to Charles Sims. He's a banger, a senior, out of Houston, Texas, and Ahmad Dixon with the tackle. Keep an eye on that combination tonight. Charles Sims, 215-pounder. He played at Houston last year, graduated in May in health, and then enrolled at West Virginia. He ran for nearly 900 yards for the Cougars last year. Ran 11 touchdowns, second down 8. Long snap count. Cricket had to handle it. Nice cut outside. Sims has the edge, but not for long as he is pulled down by Dixon. 2 tackles so far on this series.
Hey, you mentioned a minute ago Charles Sims transfer from Houston. Clint Trickett, we talked about transfer from Florida State. Their top 2 running backs are junior college and University of Houston transfers. Their top four wide receivers are all junior college transfers. This team is brand new. There's absolutely no continuity from the team that we saw put up huge numbers last year. They're still learning how to play with each other.
And the Geno Smith era has come and gone. Third down as this crowd gets a little crazy in Waco. Quick throw, and that one skips incomplete. K.J. Myers, the intended receiver, and K.J. Morton was on coverage. Looked like Myers just stopped on that ball, and Trickett went ahead and threw it deep.
Yeah, maybe a little miscommunication there. Or maybe just the ball getting caught up in the wind. The wind is going that direction. It may take a series or 2 for these quarterbacks to figure it out.
Nick O'Toole set to punt with the wind behind him, boots it up straight, and Levi Norwood throws up the hand, fair catch, dropped it into the end zone, loose ball. Touchdown, West Virginia. Oh, those are the breaks you have to have to win on the road.
You know what? Levi Norwood is getting an earful when he comes back. Not for dropping the punt, but for giving the fair catch and then backing up inside his own 10-yard line. There is an imaginary wall that every punt returner must run into right at that 10-yard line. You do not want to get inside there, and he made a costly mistake. And
Carl Joseph, the freshman All-American a year ago, the free safety on special teams, jumps on that football. And we're a PAT away from a tied ball game. Kick is up and good. So a muff punt costs Baylor, West Virginia. 7-7 in Waco.
Joey and Craig, Levi Norwood does a great job getting his hand up in that sky, signaling the fair catch. But what you guys don't realize, it's very windy down here. I feel like at the last minute that may have allowed that ball to float around on him, and that's why he muffed that punt. And Joe, you made a great point. He's got to put his feet firmly on that 10-yard line. If he starts to drift back, he's got to let it go in that situation, because he didn't. Now all of a sudden he turned the ball over.
Norwood is back on the field to return this kick. 5 yards deep. Fuller takes the knee. And Bryce Petty and the Bears offense will come back on the field. 7-7 tie. Baylor 3-0. Opened up with against Wofford 69-3. Buffalo 70-13. 2 weeks ago we saw Baylor knock off Louisiana Monroe 70-7. Joey, before tonight's 3 snaps on that last series, just 77 plays in nearly a month.
Yeah, how about that schedule for you? 2 byes here at the start of the season. I'll tell you what, I'd be itching to get out there and play.
Petty, hot slant. How about that catch? Right around the top of the turf. Wow. Clay Fuller went down low and a first down. And Baylor wants to hurry up. 2 wides top, 2 wides low. They throw far side, Fuller again. Well, he is cartwheeled right at the first down marker. And Carl Joseph, I talked about his hard hitting along with Darwin Cook, and he laid a heavy helmet on Fuller. 3 quick plays. Baylor on the ground, hits the edge. Here comes Seastrom. He's upended, first down, 40-yard line. Darwin Cook, the safeties right now, Joey, making most of the tackles in that West Virginia secondary.
We talked about speed in the open, but what about power? What about the ability to keep your feet, break a tackle, get to the outside, spin back in? Incredible run by Lake Seastrunk right there.
Another first down, Baylor. There's a read option. Up the middle goes Petty. to the 26-yard lines. We talked to Petty in length yesterday, Joey. He came in, he bounced in, had the confidence of a quarterback like you, my friend. And you know what? He says, I can run the football when needed. And there's a good example.
Yeah, just make a good decision. It's not about being overly fast. Just make good decisions.
Hand off, Seastrong.
You know, Craig, when a defensive end or whoever you leave unblocked when you're running that read option starts to crash down and starts to focus in on that running back, it's going to leave an open hole for the quarterback to take it and go. You don't have to be a burner. You don't have to be a 4-3 guy to be an effective option quarterback. Bryce Petty's a big guy, but he runs well and makes great decisions.
Glasgow Martin trying to ease him back into playing time. The carry to the 25-yard line. What a combination when Martin is really truly back healthy with Seastrong and Glasgow Martin.
Glasgow Martin was the feature back to start last year before Lake really took over. 15 rushing touchdowns last year. It's good to see him back in the lineup.
Petty stumbles and falls back to the 25-yard line, tripped up by Carl Josephs. Let's get a check in now and catch our breath. Brian Neese.
I tell you, Joey, we watched these guys on film, and we said, you know what, we got to find a way to slow down Bryce Petty. And if you try to slow down this offense, you try to force him to run. He's done a great job. He only had 3 carries before this game. He just had 2. All of a sudden, he becomes a threat in the run game. This offense opens up even more.
Glasgow Martin lines up alongside. Now they take a quick glance to the Baylor sideline. 3rd down and 6. In motion, Tevin Reese. Petty throws, slant, on the hands, 15-yard line, goes Goodley. Joey, as a former quarterback, you've got to appreciate the catchability, the hands of both these, or all these wide receivers for Baylor.
Yeah, Bryce has put the ball low a couple times, but you know what? That's part of being a teammate, is making great catches.
On the ground, busting past the 10-yard line. Well, what a combination. You've seen Petty, you see Seastrong. Now, if Glasgow Martin works his way into this lineup. Baylor again, 2nd series. They struck just 3 plays in on the first time to touch the ball. They pound it to Martin again, and he'll push the pile to the 4-yard line.
Craig, I've had a hard time catching my breath so far. I don't know what the West Virginia defense is doing. Baylor is just hammering them with the tempo. And it makes it so much easier when you don't have incompletions, when you don't have negative plays. They are just rolling.
1st and goal just inside the 5-yard line. And off Martin, wiggles maybe to the 3. Martin came in, Joey, just with 9 touches for 27 yards. Of course, the heavy lifter has been Seastrong at nearly over 11 yards per touch on the ground.
That's a phenomenal number. I mean, it's inevitably going to come down as the season goes on.
Keeper, touchdown Baylor. Petty on a keeper.
Is this the next option? We've talked about Lake Seastrong, Antoine Goodley, Tevin Reese. Does Bryce Petty become the next option in this incredible Baylor offense? If he does, that just makes it even more scary for defensive coordinators to try and contain.
You know what I think throws a little fear into defense is the fact that Petty at 6'3", 232 pounds. He told us, look, I got size 15s. I'm maybe not the biggest guy in the house, but I can push the pile.
And you know what? He's a pretty imposing guy.
Now they want to review this touchdown, whether or not the knee of Petty was down before he crossed the goal line. So the replay official tonight is Mike Engelis, and he'll take a look. So
you know what?
In that pile, what do you see?
Well, you know what? I don't know that they're trying to review whether or not he was down, but whether or not that ball came out. We couldn't see it from up here on the initial view, but you saw it on the replay. That ball is squirting out. Does it start to come loose before he crosses the plane of the goal line?
Now, all you have to do is, of course, break the plane with possession. Ryan Neese, were you set in goal side? What did it look like?
I was standing right here on the goal line, and Bryce Petty did a great job using his legs and power to get across the goal line. Looked like he crossed the line with the ball before that ball squirted out.
After further review, the ruling on the field of a touchdown is confirmed.
Like Engels, pardon me, saw the same thing you did, Brian. Touchdown for Baylor and the PAT to come. Jones, chip shot. It's automatic. 2 for 2 tonight. He's made 137 in a row, dating back to November of 2011. Baylor up 7. West Virginia with the football now, trailing by 7. Dana Holgerson. I'm thinking, you know, hey, it's a long ball game, but Joey, tonight against this Baylor team, every possession you must take advantage of.
Yeah, it's not going to be a long ball game unless you can put some points on the board. It could be over very quickly. Very infrequently do you say there's a must-score drive in the first quarter, but this could be it. I mean, Baylor is getting this momentum rolling at home. If they get this thing churning before West Virginia has a chance, things could be over pretty quick.
Short kick, 11-yard line. Smallwood hits the edge, 30. And is thrown down at the 41-yard line. Good field position for Trickett. And West Virginia, well, is outrageously offensive. No doubt. 24 touchdown drives at 2 minutes or less. As I mentioned, averaging 69, just a little over 69 points a ball game. And nearly 2,300 yards of total offense.
Well, the point differential through 3 games, 186. Their defense has scored more touchdowns than they've allowed, and their offense is scoring nearly 70 a game. Last time we saw them, they put up 35 in the first quarter.
Trickett and West Virginia at the 41, fresh downs, as they start this drive from the shotgun. Sims hits a pile, maybe a yard.
You know, Craig, Charles Sims is a fantastic running back, but he needs holes. Everybody needs holes. Every running back needs a little bit of space, and this West Virginia offensive line has really struggled this year. Only one guy coming back of playing his normal position, and they've been trying to shuffle guys in and out, trying to find the right combination.
Now, the most experienced O-lineman is the left tackle, Nick Kindler, number 79. Baylor shows blitz. Sims or Smith. Smith is strung out. Well, I'd say those backers got out there quick. Dreamus Smith, I think one of the best football names in the country. How about that? Dreamus. There wasn't much of a dream on that run.
Well, Baylor's defense is just swarming, feeding off the crowd, feeding off the momentum. Baylor's defense is not one of your typical big, strong front 7 type of defense. They have aggressive safeties, they have aggressive defensive ends, and their linebackers run sideline to sideline.
Trickett just went out. Paul Millard, who backed up Geno Smith most of last season, number 14, trots on at quarterback for West Virginia. He's looking at a blitz. He comes off the bench. Cole tries to set up the screen and does on the hands of Sims. Just short of midfield at the 49-yard line. And the headhunter, Ahmad Dixon.
Well, calling the touchdown saver right there. Sims had a wide open field to run here. And look, just turn around, big man. Turn around and get a block, and you spring it running back. Instead, Ahmad Dixon makes a touchdown-saving tackle when Baylor had brought full pressure and had nobody back to help.
How about this? Gutty call. But as you mentioned, you got to take advantage of opportunities. It's 4th down. Call it a short 2. Millard under center. Handoff. They bring pressure from the edge. Smith is taken down by Lackey, the weak side Will linebacker. What a call by the defensive coordinator, Phil Bennett. Baylor shuts down West Virginia on 4th down. They'll have the football up 7 on Fox Sports 1. Trickett's on the phone, but on the other end is Dana Holgorsen. Upset with the play of his transfer quarterback from Florida State. He told us, look, he doesn't know the offense that well. He transferred in May, Joey, but yet he felt like this is the guy because he's poised and seems to handle pressure.
Well, yeah, not only did he have to learn this offense quickly, but he had to unlearn what he'd just done at Florida State.
Now defensively for West Virginia, big series here. It's up top. Oh, my. What a catch! What a catch! Houdini! Kevin Reese!
I can't do anything but laugh. He doesn't miss. Bryce Petty does not miss. That was a perfectly thrown ball on the fingertips of Kevin Reese.
Put that as the one of, if not the catch of the year.
That was phenomenal. Phenomenal throw and catch by Bryce Petty and Kevin Reese.
Another one-play series for Baylor.
You know what that is also, though? Kevin Reese's 20th touchdown of his career. He ranks 4th on the Baylor all-time list. 18 of those touchdowns have been for more than 40 yards. Absolutely incredible.
Baylor 21, West Virginia 7 on Fox Sports 1. Tevin Reese now 6 straight games with a touchdown catch. 47 yards off the hand of Petty.
Even when Petty's missed a little bit tonight, his receivers have made catches to keep drives going. This receiving core does not get enough credit for how good they are. Tevin Reese has been hiding in the shadows behind Terrence Williams and Kendall Wright the last 2 years. All he's done is work his way up to, like we said, 4th on the all-time touchdown list.
He likes the ball, the football 40 yards or more. He's that home run catch, and now West Virginia defense, they've got to find some answers. Wind blows this one to the near side, taken by Smallwood, and maybe to the 22-yard line for the forward progress. It'll be 1st and 10 for the Mountaineers.
Craig, take a look at this. This safety's coming over. This safety's coming down for run support. And now Tevin Reese is going to run into that void right there. That weak side safety has to get over when the strong safety comes down. He simply can't cover that. Tevin Reese up the seam from that far sideline, from that far hash mark, excuse me.
So after Dana Holgorsen had a word or two with his quarterback, Clint Trickett back on the field for this series at the 22-yard line. Alongside him is Charles Sims. Play action. Trickett over the top. 40-yard line on a jump ball is Kevin White. His second grab here in the first quarter of play, and a little tug of war going on for that football. And they'll mark it, Joey, at the 41-yard line.
Boy, that play could not have come at a better time. Kevin White going up and just making a play on a high ball, going after a jump ball, being more physical than the defender. You got to love his confidence. He's still talking. He's trying to get his team going because you know what? They need a spark right now.
Well, White's a big target. 6'3", 210-pounder. Had a 17-yard touchdown reception last week in that big win against Oklahoma State. Trickett back to the air, pressure. And smartly throws that ball away. That's part of that poise that Dana Holgorsen talked about.
Coach Holgorsen's yelling at somebody on that sideline. You know, he's used to this offense operating at an incredible level of efficiency. Geno Smith has had the reins for a long time and really worked this offense, Tavon Austin, Stedman Bailey, into just about perfection.
Sims and Cody Clay in the backfield with Trickett on second down. Trickett steps up in the pocket, goes up top, splits the defense, and it falls incomplete at the 3-yard line. And he wanted the deep ball to K.J. Myers, but a flag's out.
Craig, here he is, tight end, top of your screen. Watch him. Just gets beat around the edge, locks on. You're going to get that call every time.
Locked on, looked like maybe a little face mask as well, and the penalty pushes the ball back to the West Virginia 49-yard line. Second down, 20. Cricket play action. Over the middle again, double coverage, and there's no flag. There should be. Looked like a little horse collar on the backside, but the play will stand as Carswell, the intended receiver, and it was Goodson, number 3, the left side corner on coverage.
Yeah, you're going to see a little bit of contact here.
That's a lot.
I'd throw the flag if it were me, to be perfectly honest. But you know what? Clint Trickett has not been afraid to push the ball downfield. You saw that last week against Oklahoma State. Anytime he had single coverage outside, he was taking a shot. He's doing the same thing in the first half right now.
So Trickett now comes out. Millard jumps back on the field for West Virginia on third down and 20. Blitz up the middle. Quick throw near side. Incomplete. And it was Chris McAllister bringing pressure the left end.
Something has to be going on with Clint Trickett.
Oh, I would say so.
Coach Holgerson said to us when we were talking to him this week, you mentioned earlier that he has the potential to be the guy who doesn't quite know the system. He wants someone to run this thing efficiently every single time.
Cuts away, and they'll take a bounce into the end zone on a touchback. Next Saturday, the American League's 2 best teams will look to their brightest stars in the American League Championship Series as they try to move on one close stepper to the World Series. Legends are born in October, and our coverage of baseball's postseason begins next Saturday at 7:30 Eastern. Game 1 of the ALCS, and it's only on Fox. Oh, the boys of summer, now it's October.
Football season.
You know, it's convergence of football, NFL, baseball, NBA, hockey. Baylor with the lead of 21-7 on the ground. Seastrunk, watch out. He's got a blocker out front. 30, 25, 20, walks it in. Touchdown, Baylor. Goodley was out front, leading the way. 80 yards. You want a definition of speed? Lake Seastrunk.
There's a reason he averages 11 yards a carry. Because he can do that. 80 yards will help the average there. You can't blink. You can't take your head away for one moment, or else you're going to miss a score from Baylor.
Transferred from Oregon, lost some patience with the Ducks, and has found a home with Baylor. Through the uprights. 28 points still. Just over or under 5 minutes left in this first quarter.
Look, there's been the criticism against Baylor was they hadn't played anybody yet. And let's be honest, West Virginia isn't a dominant defense, but boy, they are so much more improved from last year. Played a great game last week against Oklahoma State, really limiting them to only the pass game. Completely shut down the run last week against Oklahoma State, averaging just over 2 yards a carry. But they can't do anything against Baylor right now. Baylor's offense is just that explosive.
Shell-shocked, I guess, is a way to describe that sideline of West Virginia. That was the 4th longest run in Baylor history. 80 yards. Seastrunk, you saw that move in the middle that broke it to the outside. Had a block out front by Goodley, and Seastrunk gone.
We've seen all 3 of the big playmakers in the end zone. Well, all 4 with Bryce Petty today. Goodley, Reese, Seastrunk, and Petty all getting into the end zone so far.
That ball comes out. Smallwood picks it up. Strips a tackler, breaks another to the 20. Well, we talked about speed. There's plenty in Waco, Texas.
It's almost unfair. I mean, they have it 3 or 4 deep at wide receiver. They've got it 3 deep at running back. You know, we mentioned Glasgow Martin coming back. How about Shock Linwood, who we haven't even mentioned today, is the 3rd member of that backfield that can just burn. I mean, Baylor has talent at every position.
And a much improved defense from a year ago as Trickett's back on the field for the Mountaineers. And off to the heart and soul of Baylor, Dreama Smith. So they're wearing that helmet tonight, polished gold or brass. And there's Seastrunk, who's taking a ride. Just went 80. Let's get another quarter-mile in before I hit the field again.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Seastrunk, like you mentioned a minute ago, is transferred from Oregon. I had a chance to talk to Coach Gary Campbell, the running backs coach at Oregon this week, and said he's a fantastic kid. Just, you know, had some issues, maybe wanted to come home, maybe wanted to play right away, but you know, whatever that combination is, coming back to Baylor was the right move for him, and he's just a fantastic talent.
Trickett wants to throw, he does. Up top, that ball is through the hands of Kevin White and nearly a pick by Dimitri Goodson. He's got those yellow, green, and white going, the colors of Baylor. What's next? It's a fashion statement in college football.
The helmet's next, the mouthpiece. You know what's next for Seastrunk, though, is after this is a long career in the NFL.
3rd down and long. Trickett again throws. That ball is about 10 yards overthrown, but maybe a reason why there's a flag tossed at the 41-yard line. Carswell, the intended receiver.
Pass interference. Defense, number 8. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
You know, Craig, Clint Trickett has to learn that you're not going to get it all back. You're not going to get it all back in one play. And we've seen it on 2 plays back-to-back now, him going deep, going deep, going deep. Coach Holgerson said if there's one knock on him right now, it's that he needs to learn to play within the system. This offense is based on quick strikes.
Chip away, 1 yard at a time, and the handoff to the 40-yard line. Let's get a thought from Ryan East downstairs.
Joey and Craig, we had a chance to watch Baylor's defense over the last couple of weeks, and we knew one of their Achilles heels was the deep pass. But West Virginia can't keep going deep. They're going to have to set up some other passes to be able to establish the deep pass. But if they keep going deep, the defenders are going to be able to break up the pass or get an interception here soon.
2nd down. Trickett stands in the pocket. There's that deep ball again, and it falls incomplete at the 20-yard line.
Look, you're down 21 points in the first quarter, and the natural tendency, the natural feeling for a quarterback is to say, I got to get it back in one play, but you know what? It's not going to happen. You simply can't get 21 points on one pass, but what you can do is get your offense into a rhythm. And what this offense is built on is much the same thing that Baylor. Recognizing what the defense is giving and taking it for first downs, taking it for chunks, and then all of a sudden the defense starts to come up, and that's when you hit them over the top. You have to be patient in this offense, and you cannot force things.
West Virginia 0 for 3 on 3rd down conversions. Another deep ball thrown, and that ball is about 10 yards off the mark, and it's going to bring up 4th down in a punting situation. Interesting calls along that West Virginia sideline. Joy and Ryan, you make a great point. Right now, there's a lot of football. Don't you want to just go? You want to ding it out the flat 6-7 yards a pop and try to just get it back slow.
You got to get back in the ball game for West Virginia. You have to get some sort of momentum.
Big punt went behind the foot of O'Toole, and they'll touch it back as Holgerson paces the sideline. Time for a Lowe's Never Stop Improving game break. Let's go to L.A. and here's Patrick O'Neill.
Hey, thanks very much. Over in the SEC, number 10 LSU at Mississippi State. That's Zach Mettenberger to Odell Beckham Jr., 14 yards. So LSU coming off that loss to Georgia. They have the lead 28-23 over Mississippi State at the half. Craig and Joey, back to you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. A lot of football on this first weekend of October. .306 to play first quarter. 28-7 Baylor. You see the possessions, you blink an eye, you miss a play. There's a quick hitter across the middle and a rare miss off the hands of Goodley, who dropped it. Joey wide open at the 30-yard line.
It was bound to happen, right? After all these great catches down by your knees, and then a great catch on the post for the touchdown, it's bound to happen. Law of averages.
Another quick snap to the air again and through the hands of Robbie Rhodes, true freshman out of Fort Worth.
It's bound to happen, right? That's what you got to say. I mean,
maybe once, but twice in a row.
You're not going to get back on the field very quickly if you're dropping balls like that on the sideline when you got players like Antoine Goodley and Tevin Reese making big plays.
They're down to 10. Petty changes it up. Play clock to 3. Got the snap away. Stands in the pocket and throws. Up top on the hands. Goodley with an over-the-shoulder grab on 3rd and 10. Move the chains to the 45-yard line.
You know what, Craig? Watch this ball drop right over the top, right over the defender's shoulder into the arms of Goodley. The difference between the deep balls that Trickett's throwing and the deep balls that Petty is throwing is that the balls that Trickett are throwing are more up in the air. He's letting his receivers run under him, whereas Petty is just throwing strikes right onto his receivers.
Seastrunk tackled back at the 35. We've got a flag at the 45-yard line.
Personal foul, hands to the face. Offense, number 68. 15-yard penalty, repeat first down.
That's the left guard, Cyril Richardson. 6'4", 340-pound senior out of Fort Worth. 99 yards. He got 80 on the touchdown run. Goodley's got 3 catches for 101. Petty has missed only 2 passes, 2 touchdowns. He's ran 1.
You think Seastrunk's going to continue his 100-yard game streak of 7? Think he'll get 1 more yard? 7 games in a row going back to last season that Lake Seastrunk has rushed for 100 yards. And the only game that he didn't, when he played significant time, he went for 91.
Now this season too, Joe, he's averaging 12 carries, 139 yards. And that total is going to continue to grow with runs like we've seen tonight here in the opening quarter. Pace has slowed just a bit on this series. Petty, quick throw over the top. It's caught. Niver, the tight end. 1, 2, 3, 4 white jerseys brought him down. Jordan Niver shares some time at tight end behind Jared Monk, and that's going to be his 3rd reception of the season.
Tight ends don't get a lot of love in this offense. Maybe that's why West Virginia forgot about him right down the middle of the field.
Now we've got a timeout called by Baylor. And that's their first of the half at the 2:01 mark. Art Briles, the architect of this Baylor offense.
Wait, I was actually kind of confused here as I'm looking at this replay. That's the tight end right there, sitting behind the guard, just sneaks right out behind the linebackers who suck up on the play fake to the running back. You know, when you run the ball so well, the linebackers are just naturally going to come up and try and make the tackle, and that's when you can slip guys right by him. That's the beauty of having a running back that does what Lake Seastrunk does, is it forces the linebackers to come up and honor him. And just taking a single step, just 1 or 2 steps towards the line of scrimmage, opens up space between the linebacker's back and the front of the safeties. And any space you can have as a quarterback throwing the ball over the middle of the field just makes it that much easier.
I'm not sure we've seen the entire playbook of Art Briles as he continues to throw in plays week after week. Near a first down off a muff snap to the 41-yard line. Mark him just short. It's going to be 4th down for Baylor. Now, this season, first quarter scoring is outrageous. 119 points scored, 13 allowed. They're going for it on 4th and short, and plenty more. As Martin, speed and power to the 31.
Now you're going to see this Baylor tempo start to pick up again. You had a few drops, which slowed things down, got a bit more methodical. Now they're going to start to get up and go again.
Baylor needed 1, picked up 10 on that Glasgow Martin run. Seastrunk back on the field alongside Petty. He'll get the ball. Breaks the tackle, skips outside, and is pulled down. Nice tackle, K.J. Dillon.
Glasgow Martin, nice to see him back, picking up a big 4th down conversion. Art Briles got to be happy about that.
Gives him another weapon.
As if he needed one.
2nd down, shotgun Petty. Makes the read and hands it to Seastrunk. He'll be marked at the 20, and they're going to have another first down. Move the change.
And that's another Baylor.
#1 ranked in the country in total offense, 751 yards. #1 in scoring, #1 in passing. And we got a player down. Shaq Rao, a very talented nose tackle for West Virginia, is down for the Mountaineers. Well, Bryce Petty's had quite a start to this game. Really interesting talk yesterday with this young quarterback.
What a great guy to talk to. I mean, just had an energy about him the moment he walked into the room, and he told us he went with one of his teammates down to Athens last week for the Georgia LSU game and sat in the stands with his Baylor hat. Took little grief, you know. The SEC fans were asking if their offense could hang with an SEC defense. So I think they could hang with anybody right now. But he talked about the atmosphere, how playing in big games helps develop a quarterback, and he really just took it all in. One of the great things about Bryce is that he has the physical tools. He's 6'3", he's 235 pounds. The guy's got a cannon for an arm, but he takes things in. He learns from people.
Well, he learned from Robert Griffin III.
Absolutely.
He learned from Nick Florence, and he told us too. Look, I didn't like it. I didn't like it a bit because I'm a competitor.
Right.
But he learned.
Exactly. And you know what he said he learned? From Robert Griffin, he said he was always calm. He was always thinking about the next play. He learned how to be a leader. From Nick Florence, he learned how to prepare. Nick was just so smart. But he said, you know what I loved? I don't want to be them. I want to be Bryce.
Well, he's making a name for himself here in the 2013 season. This is the 10th play of this drive. And they have a first down at the 20-yard line of West Virginia. Seastrunk slips a tackle or 2, picks up 4 at the 16-yard line. As the clock runs up on 45 seconds left in this opening quarter.
2nd down.
Seastrunk again, hit the edge. 10, 5, reaches in, out of bounds at the 2-yard line. Tried to hug the sideline.
Look at this ballet move down the tightrope in the sideline. Hop, hop. Oh, so close. So close to staying in bounds there.
Eighth consecutive game now, 100 yards for Lake Seastrunk on just 8 carries, 16 yards a touch. And looks like this first quarter clock, they're going to let it run out. And what a first quarter of football it's been for Baylor. 28 points, a couple of touchdown throws, from Petty. He ran one in. Seastrunk turned on the Jets and ran 80 yards for a touchdown. Baylor 28, West Virginia 7.
Now, I'm pretty sure I can see that Lake Seastrunk's foot is out here. But watch, no running back is ever going to say that he was out of bounds. This guy's a competitor now. Lake Seastrunk is telling him, challenge this play. I was in, I scored, I got the 35th point for the quarter, just like we did against Louisiana Monroe. Lake is a competitor now.
Absolutely. Time now for our Chevrolet stats comparison. And you can see Baylor's dominance in the first quarter alone. Less than 8 minutes, they score 28 points, 367 yards of offense. That's 13 yards a play.
That's a game for most teams.
Blasco Martin right alongside Petty. Into the teeth of West Virginia's front. K.J. Dillon with the tackle. Second down goal. Again, straight ahead and walking in. Martin, touchdown. Second touchdown of the season for the senior from Round Rock, Texas.
And I tell you who was excited. Number 77, Kelvin Palmer, helped open up that hole and took off on a beeline back to the sideline. Boy, this entire Baylor offense, position or skill players, quarterback, offensive line, they're all getting into the mix.
One after, and the shot is up and good by Aaron Jones. With 20 seconds into the second quarter, Baylor's on the board again. 14 plays, that's odd. Usually it's 1 or 2 and they're in. They go 80 yards and 3:26 off the clock. You know, yesterday we had a chance to meet Lady and Joy. That's the real Bears on the Baylor campus. They are North American black bears that are biological sisters. And Joy, they weigh over 270 pounds and are available for all visitors to see. We had a great time. A little trick.
Yeah,
a little carrot. I had the trick of the trick.
You gave them the treat.
Oh yeah, I want some honey.
They liked you the best.
Yeah, they did. Give me more. Give me more.
I told my little guy Jack, as soon as I got that picture, I sent it to him. I said, guess what Daddy got to feed today? Daddy fed a bear.
Tell you what, their favorite is craisins and, of course, nuts. But the honey just
put them over the top.
Oh, put them over the edge. Yeah.
Is that Lady or Joy?
All I know is she's out for the night.
Yeah,
having a good time. Baylor fans, 4th game of the year, and all they know is offense, Joey. 35-7 as the kick is away. And with the wind behind the foot, it's out of bounds, touchback. Ryan, you had a chance to meet Lady and Joy.
We did. You know, Joey and I had a great time feeding them craisins and raisins, and they loved it. But, Craig, you always know how to wine and dine the ladies. You bring the honey. I was pretty impressed. You did your research. You brought your own bottle of honey. I was very impressed. You spare no detail, Craig.
No, that was a 5-pound bottle of honey. We had a great time. We were hosted so well. We want to thank the folks here at Baylor for letting us kind of behind the scenes. West Virginia trying to get something going on the offensive end. They go off the right side with Sims. Sims has that ability. He's got that speed. He's got power. 215-pound back.
He's got to have some space. And any back, no matter how good they are, they have to have the space to run. And West Virginia's offensive line just isn't providing that.
3 wide receivers, near side, 2nd down 7. Tricky. Out of the pocket. And was thrown down by Lackey, Eddie Lackey.
These Baylor linebackers run so well, sideline to the sideline. This is not a power defense. This is not a Stanford front seven or an Alabama power defense. This is a quick, explosive defense that's going to create turnovers and run you down from sideline to sideline, just like Lackey did there.
Well, Lackey's got speed. Hager has 4.5 speed. The middle backer, 44. And Lackey did a nice job tracking down Sims. 3rd down 10. Bears show blitz. Here they come up the middle. Prickett throws and the ball complete. Nice catch, Kevin White, but only a gain of 5. Sam Hall, the nickelback, with the tackle.
Watch Lackey just on a beeline. No one's getting outside of it. Look, these guys can move. That's the great thing about Baylor is they have speed at all positions on both sides of the ball. These guys can run.
Nick O'Toole will punt into the wind. The right footer gets it away. High hanger, Levi Norwood. Waves for the fair catch, has it at the 31-yard line. O'Toole boots a 39-yard punt. Baylor back on offense at their own 31. Well, there they are, Lady and Joy. The Baylor Bears. 35-7, and things get a little lonely. Only your best friends roll by to say hello.
We know it. We saw him just a second ago, kind of rolling that right shoulder, which he hurt last week. And we gave his teammate a high five. He used his left arm. I've been in that spot. I've been in that place where your shoulder hurts so much that you don't want to use it for anything but throwing.
Coach Holgerson told us he was banged up in that win against Oklahoma State. Felt like he was obviously going to go, and he has to this point. Back to the ground. Seastrunk, big chunk of yards, maybe 11 to the 42-yard line. They swing in the left arm, but holding that right arm mighty still.
I'm not going to sit and speculate on an injury, but I've been in the position where you just don't want to move that arm. It just hangs there.
Quick throw on the hands. Fuller. Petty just enough, a little play action fake. And he put that ball perfectly on the hands of Fuller. The pickup of 26 yards. Petty goes back to work, this time overthrows out of bounds. And that stops the clock with 12-12 left in this first half. Jay Lee, the intended receiver.
We've given a lot of credit to these receivers, these running backs. Bryce Petty at quarterback, but nobody could do their job without this offensive line. We mentioned him earlier, unfortunately on a penalty, Cyril Richardson, All-American last year, the Big 12 lineman of the year. He's just leading these guys in the push up front.
Norwood with the catch. Is inside the 30 to the 28-yard line. Baylor's knocking on the door one more time. Isaiah Bruce with the tackle. Seastrunk back on the field. Petty, the ball carrier, spins out of a tackle to the 22.
It is just enough of a changeup to be effective. That's the. We said earlier, he doesn't have to be a speed guy. He doesn't have to be a burner. He just has to make the right decision and pull the ball out when the opportunity is there. And that time, the defensive end keys on Lake Seastrunk, leaves his gap, and Bryce Petty just took it right up the middle.
Seastrunk flags out, tripped up.
Give us a Lake
Out of
Seastrunk.
bounds to the 15-yard line.
Holding. Offense, number 18. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Niver, the tight end, holding the call. Baylor's offense, 419 total yards in this first half. That's the most of the FBS in the last 10 seasons. They picked up 369 in the first quarter alone.
We're calling it the first half, and there's still 11 and a half minutes left in the second quarter. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Two wideouts near side. Glasgow Martin alongside Petty. Now Petty takes a glance to the Baylor sideline. Play clock to 9. Play action, goes through his progression, throws near side. That ball skips a little short, Goodley, incomplete.
That's the first time I've seen Bryce Petty get a little bit anxious, a little bit ahead of his feet. You know, he started down the middle, then started working out to the sideline. He just needed to get his feet out there. That's why he missed that throw.
Goes right back to work. He pumps, brings it back down. Now throws, and it bounces incomplete. He had room to run, decided to throw that ball, and it stops the clock with 11 minutes left in half number 1.
Yeah, had them both, actually, right there at the sideline. Almost kind of threw it in between them. Wasn't quite sure which one to go to, and also had room to run there.
So far, I think you'll agree, Baylor does not look like a team that's been idle for just 77 plays over the last 27 days. They've been sharp. They put 35 points up. As you mentioned, still 11 minutes left in half number 1. Petty, play action, throws the ball. It is picked off. The first interception of the season thrown by Petty. Worley's got it, and he is knocked down midfield. Corey Coleman laid a little wood on Worley, the freshman. So West Virginia forces a TO, the first pick thrown by Petty.
And Bryce Petty has been near perfect up to this point of the season. Right here gets a little bit greedy. Watch the safety here. He's going to get a lot of width, which means he should be coming inside, except he gets jammed up. He goes late outside to the sideline, gives that safety a chance to get out there. Maybe just got a little greedy, a little too confident.
First pick in 84 pass attempts by Petty. Cricket hands off. Charles Sims, maybe a yard on the right side.
You know what? Even when West Virginia comes up with a big play and interception, they still make a play. They make it pay.
That's the second cartwheel tackle of the night.
Yeah. Terrell Warren is going to remember that interception.
No gain on the play, second down 10. Cricket in traffic, throws, man coverage up top, who jumps? And it's incomplete at the 15-yard line. Kevin White, the intended receiver. And it was K.J. Morton providing coverage. Maybe one of the better balls thrown tonight by Trickett.
It was. Watch Hager right here in the middle of the field. Coming down, bringing pressure on the quarterback, going airborne again. Making Clint Trickett get the ball out of his hands. But the difference between the deep balls thrown by Clint Trickett and the deep balls thrown by Bryce Petty, there's just so much more zip on the balls by Petty, and they're getting there in a line as opposed to letting the receivers run underneath.
Mountaineers have yet to get a first down on third down conversion. This one hangs high in the air and falls incomplete. And now it's a punting situation.
Hey, Craig, Clint Trickett, his arm has got to be hurt. His arm, after he threw that ball, was hanging down. Like I said, I've been in that situation. You don't have as much zip on the ball. You're not able to fire that deep ball on the trajectory that you want. You have to leave it up in the air a little bit more and let your receivers run under it. He just doesn't have the speed on the ball that I'm sure he wants.
Yeah, Trickett's 3 of 11 for just 61 yards. Fair catch taken as Norwood had to run up. That's a dangerous play as he ran up, and Fair caught that ball at the 22-yard line. It's been all Baylor, 35-7 over West Virginia on Fox Sports 1. Well, a moment ago, we see Trickett, Clint Trickett. He's going to answer the phone, and the tell-all is he answers it with the left hand.
Yeah, he's in a lot of pain. I mean, he really is. This is a tough kid out there. Give him credit. He may not be producing a lot of offense, but give him a lot of credit for being out there and toughness.
Paul Millard saw him 14, just trying to stay loose as Baylor's back on offense, and C-Strong to the 29-yard line. There's another phone call picked up by the left hand. Well, he was rubbing the right hand as well. You can't speculate, but You know he's in pain. He's strong. Chased down. Good speed by K.J. Dillon. Free safety. Tracked him down with the shoestring tackle. Got a player down, and that's Dillon. Dillon, a sophomore. Dana Holgorsen really thought, though, too, that kind of a signature win last week against Oklahoma State. Thought maybe that'd be the vaulting point for his team.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier. This team has not had a whole lot of time together, and they haven't had time to gel, time to figure out each other's tendencies. And a game like that against Oklahoma State last week can sometimes be the catalyst to getting everybody on the same page. But sometimes coming in and playing Baylor the next week can undo everything you did the week before.
Straight ahead. Glasgow Martin to the 35. And that's another Baylor first down. 16th first down in this first half. Quick throw on the hands. Corey Coleman breaks a tackle, hits the edge. 40, 30, and out of bounds at the 29-yard line. How about Tevin Reese out there? I'll tell you, this Baylor wide receiving core, they go out and block for one another.
Well, you have to. You have to. In these offenses, when you throw lots of bubbles, when you throw lots of quick screens, your wide receivers have to be able to block.
Glasgow Martin, 10 to the 9. Boy, shedding tacklers one by one to the 10-yard line. Clock runs up on 8.5 minutes left first half.
Here goes that tempo again.
Same play straight ahead. Martin to the 4-yard line. Doug Rigg made the initial hit, but Martin ran through the tackle.
And don't be surprised if they just get up and do it a third time.
Lowers his pads. Martin just inside the 1-yard line. Looks like maybe a knee went down a little earlier at the 1.5. Ball control tonight. Baylor, 11 minutes and change. They've nearly 500 yards of offense. 77 for West Virginia. You want to sit there and think that maybe is a mistake, but no. Misdirection. Martin on a counter off the left side. Touchdown.
You start running out of adjectives at a certain point.
Yes, you do.
I mean, I'm trying to think of something new to say, but it's just the same thing they've been doing all game.
Snap, kicks up, and good. Baylor 42, West Virginia 7. 7.5 minutes remaining here in the first half in Waco, Texas. They've been throwing the ball now to the ground. Glasgow Martin. Waco, Texas. The runaway first half for the Baylor Bears. That last scoring drive, 8 plays, 77 yards. Less than 2.5 minutes off the clock, and it was capped by that 2-yard run by Glasgow Martin.
Is it bad that it felt like a long drive? I mean, in comparison to the other ones, that felt like a long, sustained drive.
Deep kick. And a knee by Smallwood. Now we just saw, now these guys can play the cymbals. You play the piano. Can you keep up with this Baylor band?
That was many, many years ago, Craig. Many years ago, and a little blown-up story by a few of the media outlets.
toss a football into the woods, didn't you?
The guy kept moving it. Never got it in there.
So, I'll tell you, this guy's gutty. Trickett, you know, is beaten up, but he's back with a first down at the 25. In that pocket, Trickett throws incomplete. Sam Hall was right on the back of Carswell, number 12.
It was actually a nice ball.
It was.
It was a well-thrown ball by Trickett there. Just really good coverage. You know, that's the difference between last year's West Virginia team and this year's right now, is they had playmakers all over the place. Stedman Bailey, Tavon Austin, Geno Smith, J.D. Woods.
Trickett smothered and dropped. Maybe a face mask because he's slow to get up off the turf. Back at the 10-yard line. And we'll get the call here from Reggie Smith. You have to wonder how much more can Trickett take. You saw Millard earlier trying to stay loose on that West Virginia sideline. Here's the call.
Personal foul, hands to the face of a quarterback. Defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's defensive coordinator Phil Bennett riding the side of Art Briles.
You think he likes that call? Oh boy.
A little reach out and a little punch to the face, and down went Trickett. They've got first down at the 40-yard line. 7 minutes left, first half. On the edge, Sims hits it. Oh, he slips and falls at the 45.
Charles Sims, the ball carrier.
Hey, Craig.
Tackle by Terrell Burks.
Watch Clint Trickett's face at the end of this. You can see it in his helmet. The young man is in a lot of pain, just grimacing right there. You can just see him. God, he's hurting. You know he's hurting, and he's out there playing. This is a tough kid right now.
Stands in that pocket, throws, has a man near side, nice catch on the hands of Carswell. First down, move the chains to the 37-yard line. Joey, you talked about toughness. Ryan Neese, you know about being a tough guy. How about Trickett?
Well, Trickett is a very tough guy, and it's one of the things that the coaches and his teammates respect about him. He continues to play through pain right here tonight, but he demonstrated that all the way through camp and all the way throughout this season already, that he can play when he is injured.
He demonstrated that last week against the Cowboys. There were some questions whether or not he'd suit up tonight, but here he is as he pedals back once the home run ball. Man coverage over the top. Bingo on the hands of Kevin White. Touchdown, West Virginia. 39 yards.
His numbers may not be big right now, but I am really impressed with the play of Clint Trickett. Now, I can't speak for decisions you make in the offense. I can't speak for making the right calls or the right checks, but I can look at you and say, you know what? You're standing in there and you're playing a tough football game, and you just delivered 2 strikes, one to the sideline on an out pass there, and then for a post route over the top. I respect this kid. Great ball.
Josh Lambert in to try the PAT, and the kick is up and through the uprights. Trickett put that ball right on the money, but Joey paid for it.
Yeah, he did. Sean Oakman coming in off the edge there. Gets that big 6'9" frame, that wingspan out there, and wraps him up. That's one of the toughest things to do, is stand in that pocket when you know you're hurt and deliver a strike. You know, you keep knocking on the door, you keep throwing it, eventually it's going to happen, right? Throwing that deep ball, there must be something on film that they have seen, that they're continually throwing this ball down the field.
And Trickett continues to answer the phone with the left hand. After that well-thrown pass for a touchdown, 42-14 at the 5:49 mark. Cricket graduated in social science from Florida State and then made the move to West Virginia with eligibility left in May. That's what we talked about earlier. He's still trying to absorb Dana Holgerson's offensive playbook. And Joey, coming into a program in May is not easy to do. You miss spring ball, you got to play catch up in the fall.
Well, that absolutely. You've spent the last 3 years learning Florida State's offense, and then you graduate in 3 years. I mean, he's a smart kid, and then jumps straight into West Virginia and just tries to digest as much as he possibly can. But not only is it him trying to learn the offense, but it's everybody else around him. It's not like these receivers were not taking reps behind Tavon Austin and Stedman Bailey. They are new as well. These running backs were not playing behind Andrew Bowie last year and Sean Alston. They are new as well. Everybody is new and trying to learn Coach Holgerson's offense.
5:41 left. Hand off, Seastrong trying to dance out of trouble, and he's trapped behind the 15-yard line. Will Clark staying home, played his lanes, and a loss of 8.
Hey, there was an offensive explosion in Morgantown, West Virginia last year. Geno Smith, Tavon Austin, Andrew Bowie, Stedman Bailey, J.D. Woods. But 92% of that offense is gone from last year's team.
Quick throw near side on the hands of Goodley. Now that game last year, I happened to be in Morgantown, 70-63. Nick Florence had a marvelous game, but no one talked about Nick Florence.
No one talks about Terrence Williams last year either, who went over 300 yards receiving for Baylor.
Geno Smith was at the height of his Heisman watch at that time, and then from that point on, West Virginia took a 5-game fall.
Well, our colleague Eddie George just pretty much gave him the Heisman after that game.
He wasn't alone. Up top, wide open, on the hands of Goodley. And Petty again puts that ball, floats it in, and a flag is dropped back at the 30-yard line. That's a soft ball thrown by Petty.
Just a nice touch over the top. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a taunting foul coming back there.
43 yards, make it 40. Long conference by the officials. The referee, Reggie Smith. Here's the call.
Personal foul. Targeting with the crown of the helmet. Defense, number 25. That's a 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down. And by rule, 25 has disqualified himself from the game.
That's the rule now in college football.
Targeting is under further review.
Darwin Cook, Carl Joseph, both those safeties have that linebacker mentality, and they're fearless.
Boy, that one surprised me, to be honest. The flag came out late, which led me to believe that it was going to be an after-the-play type of call. Boy, their helmets made contact, but that does not look like a targeting penalty to me.
So suspended for the remainder of this ball game. Had he been suspended in the second half, he'd have to sit out the first half of the next game.
They're reviewing, they're automatically review this call now. So it's in the booth right now to determine whether or not he is going to be ejected.
Here's the call.
After further review, number 25 is not disqualified from the game.
And I think it's a good call.
However, by rule, the 15-yard penalty is still in force. First down.
Okay, so here's what I don't understand, and doesn't make any sense to me. You just said that the player who was initially kicked out for targeting is now not kicked out because it was not targeting. However, there is still a 15-yard penalty enforced. This is the part of the rule that I don't understand and I don't agree with. I understand trying to create a situation where you're looking after player safety. But the way that the rule is currently set up right now, I frankly don't agree.
Seastrunk, left side, hits the edge. Touchdown, Baylor.
Lake Seastrunk, the ball
Nope.
carrier.
Yes. One official jumped and said no. The other one jumped in and said yes.
You know what jumps out to me right now is Coach Patterson, D coordinator for West Virginia, said two things. We must stop them from going vertical, and I quote, we will stop number 25. I don't know that anybody can stop number 25 right now.
Well, tonight, no one's been able to so far this season through nearly 4 games on the schedule. Next week, Baylor travels to Manhattan to take on Kansas State. Seastrunk tonight, 14 carries, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. For another review here in Waco. Hit the pylon with the football.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be his left foot here. Watch as he gets to the sideline. Right there. Looks to be in for me.
It did look in.
Yep, looks close, but
A Heisman pose by Baylor fans for Lake Seastrunk.
not just the pose, but the chant. Yeah, that should stand. They should keep that as a touchdown. But you know what I love about Lake is he came out earlier in the year and said, I want to be talked about for the Heisman. Go ahead.
That's why the fans are out there doing
That's
the pose.
right.
Here's a call.
After further review, the ruling on the field of a touchdown is confirmed.
A lot of people shy away from that pressure, shy away from that talk. Hey, you know, I don't want to be in the spotlight. He wants it on his shoulders. He knows that he can carry that load.
Aaron Jones, busy night. BAT will make it 49-14, and the kick is up and good. I want to go back to the targeting foul that was called. Mike Pereira is back in our LA studios. Let's bring in Mike and get his take on that call. And Mike, Joey vocal. I think a lot of fans still kind of concerned about how this really works itself out. Thrown out, reversed, but the 15 yards remains.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, I think they really have to look at this because it doesn't make sense. I agree with Joey totally on this. If you're basically saying it's not targeting, and I don't think this was because it wasn't beyond the normal tackle here. He didn't line him up and hit him helmet to helmet. So it's not targeting. So therefore, it's really not a foul. So you're in there under the hood making one judgment. And if you're under there, then I think you should get to make the second judgment. And I think for the intent of this being a player safety rule, I think it makes it look bad because you're kind of throwing the officials under the bus and said, well, it wasn't targeting, but you can keep the 15 yards. I think most everybody's saying it's nonsensical.
Yeah, Mike, good point. Well, thank you for your time and being up a little late with us here on Fox Sports 1. Smallwood returns it back inside the 20-yard line. So Mike Pereira, he agrees with you, Joey.
Well, yeah, the intent was not there. Yes, their helmets made contact. That's going to happen throughout the course of a football game. But I completely agree with Mike that if you're going to reverse the ejection by saying it's not targeting, then therefore it's not a targeting penalty. So why do you keep the 15 yards?
Remove the 15 yards.
Absolutely. They need to fix the player safety intent is great. The way the rule is enforced needs to be changed.
Mountaineers found the end zone on their last possession. They go to work here late in the second quarter. Deep ball up top. Ames. And a flag is thrown out. Carswell was sandwiched in double coverage. And the ball falls incomplete. The ball falls incomplete, but the flag's out at midfield. And look at Art Briles.
Pass interference. Defense. Number 3. Automatic first down.
That's the corner, Dimitri Goodson. Senior out of Spring, Texas.
Coach Briles is saying that was uncatchable. I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but a judgment call nonetheless.
1st and 10 now. West Virginia 33-yard line. Trickett. Throws, and boy, the hits are coming. As Thompson, number 10, with the reception. So I can't say enough about Baylor and how they have improved on the defensive side of the football. They were taken to task more than once last season. Become a more physical team, and that's what they're doing tonight against the Mountaineers. They showed blitz. 2nd down 5. Quick throw up top. Incomplete. And the pressure came. Lackey brought the pressure.
Here he is coming right up the gut. This Baylor defense, we mentioned it. They're not a big physical front 7, but they're going to be aggressive. We've seen them time and time again play what's called cover 0. You have 0 people in the middle of the field deep, and you're committing everybody to rushing the quarterback, saying, I'm going to get home before he can get that ball off, and that's exactly what happened.
3rd down and 5. Trickett throws. Tough pass, and even a tougher grab. Pulled down by Kirill Shorts.
And what a great pass that was. Over the outstretched arms of a guy in the flat. You threw that ball across the field to the sideline. And the angle for an interception is so much greater on that type of a square out with a guy cutting underneath. Dropped it right over the top. Fantastic throw by Trickett.
And a 1st down for West Virginia. Under 3 minutes left, 1st half here in Waco. Trickett steps up in the pocket. Up top he goes, middle of the field, and it's just off that fingertips of Myers. Incomplete, 20-yard line. Stops the clock, 2:37 remaining.
Watch this get right over the top of the outstretched defender's arms. It was a perfectly thrown ball. If that ball is any lower, it's picked off and going the other direction by Sam Hall, but instead it's a 1st down for West Virginia. Great touch throw by Clint Trickett.
And a key play on this drive. Trying to go into the locker room with some momentum. Baylor owned it all in the 1st quarter. Back to the air. Trickett. And throws that ball away out of bounds. It was the redshirt freshman Vernon Davis he wanted near sideline. He was tied up 30-yard line. And now 3rd down. They're missing Ivan McCartney, their senior wide receiver. He's out. He was concussed last week against Oklahoma State, so the reason why we saw Davis on that play. Audible. And now timeout. West Virginia. They work that clock down, the play clock to 1. First timeout for West Virginia this half. How about back to Los Angeles? A game break. Here's Rob Stone.
Coming up on the Pizza Hut halftime show, a thriller from Tennessee, Georgia. And the Vols go to overtime. Oklahoma looks to remain unbeaten and an early candidate for Play of the Year. We'll see you at the break.
Well, some of the headliners today, Rob, interesting day of football. Plays of the year, we saw a great grab in the 1st quarter. James Winston, Mr. Boyd, Keenan Reynolds 180 combined yards, 3 touchdowns in the win over Air Force in the Commander-in-Chief's trophy.
How about Navy coming back? What was it, 21 unanswered points to win that ball game against Air Force today? Great performance by the midshipmen. You got to love what Ken Niumatalolo has done at Navy there. Done a terrific job at the Naval Academy.
3rd down 10. Whistle, stop play, push back and a loss to the 40-yard line. Sam Hall, number 25, right there to make the play. Baylor wants a timeout and gets it. Their second of the first half. See, that picture right there speaks 1,000 words. Arms crossed, Dana Holgerson. Just that slight little.
Sometimes you don't have to say anything.
Oh, no. Oh, that's just dejection. They got to go out again. Shout out to our armed forces. It's been a rough, I'll tell you, in this country, it's been a rough time. You know, there were some questions whether or not football would be played, especially the Air Force Navy game.
Well, those games mean so much.
Absolutely.
To the players in the armed forces. I mean, the reality is the teams from Navy and Army and Air Force, they're not going to be competing for a national championship, but they do play for the Commander-in-Chief trophy.
And Joey, in a way, honestly, they represent us all.
Absolutely.
So Fox Sports 1 starts off your Sunday mornings with Fox NFL Kickoff as the guys get you up to speed on all that happens around the league. Then turn over to Fox to catch America's #1 pregame show, Fox NFL Sunday. This week you're going to hear from Colts quarterback Andrew Luck on his strong start, and the Colts get more football tomorrow beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and Fox. Baylor back to work. Seastrunk once more off that left side, and he rolls the pile to the 37-yard line. Hey, Oliver Luck, athletic director at West Virginia, his son, we'll talk to on Fox tomorrow, Fox Sports 1.
Oliver Luck just named to the new selection committee for the college football playoffs coming up next year.
What a career his son had at Stanford. Now trying to fill the shoes of one Peyton Manning as a flag is out. And a game tackle at the 45-yard line.
That's complete to Antoine Goodley.
Goodley with another catch. He's been very busy in this first half. A favorite target of Bryce Petty.
Personal foul. Face mask. Defense. 15 yards from the end of the run. First down.
That penalty will put the ball at the West Virginia 40-yard line.
No, pretty easy call for the officials on that one. Spins his head around.
Just under 2 minutes left, first half. Petty on a play action, threads the needle, and that's incomplete. That ball took the bounce. Levi Norwood, the intended receiver. Baylor back to work. Near side on the hands of Goodley. Steps out of bounds, stops the clock, 30-yard line.
Well, you know what that pass does is it takes Tevin Reese out of the possibility of scoring a touchdown now, because he only scores touchdowns from outside of the 40. So now that they're on the 30, he can't score. Isn't that kind of how his career has worked?
Goodley's the big hitter. He goes 3 touchdowns this season alone with 60-yard touchdowns. But the patience of Petty pulled that ball down and went back to the air, complete at the 20-yard line.
That's what I was just about to say. Worked his way right inside of his progression, read the coverage, put the ball on the correct shoulder for his receiver. That's not, you know, it's not just finding the right zone, but it's also putting the ball on the right shoulder to turn him away from pressure.
I feel like I'm watching a 2-minute drill. Chuck Linwood, another one of the weapons that has not been used tonight, but gets the carry. to the 13-yard line. Pick up a 7, second down 3 as we roll up on a minute left in the half. Straight up the middle, Linwood. Back-to-back touches, scores a touchdown from 13 yards.
I started thinking about that stat that we had earlier in the quarter with 11 and a half minutes left. 419 total yards. That was 10 and a half minutes ago.
Yes, yes it was. And a half of football. Baylor is about to punch in their 56th point. And the kick is good. So far this season, Baylor puts 69 up against Wofford, 70 against Buffalo. Louisiana Monroe, nearly 2 weeks ago, they put 70 on the scoreboard. So far, 56 here in the first half against West Virginia. Linwood with the touchdown. Well, the FBS single game record for total yards, 1,021. Houston, SMU, 1989. Baylor tonight, 617 yards.
You would have thought that in last year's West Virginia Baylor game, you would have had 1,000 yards, but in that shootout, West Virginia had just over, well, 1500 combined, but that's 1,000 yards for one school in a game.
Smallwood takes the kick, and second effort gets a little bump out of bounds at the 40-yard line. 55 seconds remaining. First half. Trickett's going to trot back on the field. He has been pushed and pulled and hit all night long.
Been under a lot of pressure, but you know what? He's still in there. He's hung in. And he stood in the pocket, delivered the ball, and you have to respect that as a quarterback.
Delay on the draw. Sims breaks a tackle and falls to the 46-yard line.
You got a glimpse of what Charles Sims can do in open space there. A great cut.
Open space.
Exactly. He has not been able to see daylight at all today. But if you can get him the ball into space, this guy can move.
First down, clock runs. 40 ticks on the clock. Trickett just got it to Sims. He has pushed back, no gain. Second down 10.
Ball carrier, tackled by Eddie and Bryce Petty.
Trickett shotgun. Stumbles and takes a seat back at the 45. Pressure from the edge. Bo Blackshear. In the first half, winds down, and this crowd enjoyed every minute of it. But we're going to get a timeout with 4 seconds left. West Virginia, if you got him, I guess, Joey, use him.
You know what? I don't mind it. I don't mind this if you're Dana Holgorsen. Take a shot.
Yeah, well,
throw it to the end zone. What's the harm?
Absolutely. This situation could come up in a critical game down the stretch of this season. I mean, you know, if you're coaching, what are you doing? You're teaching football.
There is nothing that can take the place of experience. Doing it in a real live game. And so if you got something that you want to work on, absolutely. Absolutely take this opportunity to do it.
Holgorsen remembers 7-6 a year ago. In their first year in the Big 12, after winning the Big East in the Orange Bowl in 2011. Trickett steps up in the pocket, throws a dart, and it's a little behind the intended receiver, Kevin White, incomplete. Well, if you're questioning the strength of Trickett's arm, we watched it hang by his side. He still was able to throw it and put it on a string.
It's 4th down.
A little delay. Sims could not outrun the Baylor defense. The story of this first half. Halftime, 56-14. Baylor. We now go to Rob Stone, Coy Wire, and Eddie George in L.A. for the Pizza Hut halftime report. Well, from outside that helmet to inside the hat tonight here in Waco, Texas. We just looked specifically at Baylor, Joey, in the first half. 56 points, 617 yards of total offense, nearly 11 yards per touch. 6 different players scored touchdowns for the Bears in half number 1.
Yeah, that's the most impressive part of that stat line to me is Tevin Reese, Antoine Goodley, Bryce Petty, Lake Seastrunk, Glasgow Martin, Shocklin. Everybody scored touchdowns. You can't just focus in on one player on this Baylor offense and try and take him out of the ballgame because somebody else just becomes open. There are weapons everywhere you look for on offense for Baylor.
Quickly, did Baylor answer critics tonight, or does that have to happen on the road?
I'm not sure. You know, we were having this conversation a minute ago. West Virginia is a much improved defensive team. They're allowing 312 yards through the air last year. This year they're under 190. But I don't know if it's that much of an improved defense to make it a worthy competition.
Well, welcome back. Fox College Football, and it's presented by Geico. Moments away to start the second half here in Waco. Remember, West Virginia won the toss, deferred. They wanted the ball to start the second half, and that's what they'll have here. Trickett was basically physically abused in half number 1.
Yeah, and he didn't exactly come into the game fresh either.
Here we go. Third quarter. Wind continues to blow, and that one goes about 8 yards deep into the end zone. It'll be interesting to see what Dana Holgerson's attempt will be here. Down 56-14. And Joey, Trickett's numbers in that first half of play, as we mentioned, he was hurried, he was harassed, sacked twice, 7 of 20 through the air for 127 yards and a touchdown.
You know, so many of them were those deep shots. He threw probably 5 or 6 deep posts that he didn't connect on in the first half, and West Virginia needs to get something started, get a little momentum.
They try to get that momentum with Charles Sims off the right side, pick up probably 6 yards. And Bo Blackshear, the nose tackle number 95, with Hager alongside with the tackle. You know, you always mention, I know this is the cliche, but you can't get it all back at once. Got to chip away, chip away.
We've seen it happen. I don't know, 56-14, but we've seen teams come back from large deficits, and you're right, it's not hitting a bunch of big plays. It's about getting a little momentum and getting in the rhythm.
Sims, another strong run, first down, 36-yard line. Hager in on the second straight tackle. He had 8 tackles 14 days ago against Louisiana Monroe, and again, it's hard to beat him to the sideline or anywhere on this field with a 4.5 speed.
Yeah, it's hard to beat him anywhere. He's the returning leader in Big 12 for tackles. And Coach Brown told us about how he was benched for a couple of games last year, and that really gave him some perspective, seeing things from the sideline. He's become a better player because of it.
Trickett feels pressure, up top he goes. Nice grab inside the 40-yard line. Up high goes Kevin White, using that frame, 6'3", 210-pounder. He's down jumped a couple of Baylor Bears in that secondary in this ballgame.
And look at Clint, the hit that Clint Trickett just takes. Stands in there and delivers the ball. Again, that cover zero look where nobody's in the back, nobody's deep safety for Baylor. They're bringing pressure, and watch Clint just stay in there and just take a shot. It's a tough kid right there.
So first down, 39-yard line of Baylor. Trickett shotgun. First series of this second half. Ball is taken by Sims. Nice step. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Oh, impressive to start the third quarter.
They gave him space. That offensive line for West Virginia, something must have got into him at halftime. Because I tell you what, 3 times now they've opened up a hole for Charles Sims, and he's shown you what he can do. This guy's an NFL talent. The scouts love him, and if you give him the room to run, he can show you something.
Makes that nice inside cut, took it back out for a 39-yard kick. Lambert set to try the PAT, and the kick is good. So it took just 4 plays. Went 75 yards. Sims from 39 yards. Baylor 56. West Virginia 21. West Virginia opens up their first series here in the third quarter. Finds the end zone. 4 plays, 75 yards. Beautiful run. Sims 39 yards.
Well, the offensive line gave him some room to run, and he didn't have that room in the first half.
I think what Dana Holgorsen would tell you, he challenged his team, don't quit. Came out, 4 plays in the end zone.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of things to tell your team at halftime when you're down 56-14. But he's going to learn. Coach Holgorsen's going to learn a lot about his football team here in the second half.
Wind has picked up a little. So a little help on the kick for Josh Lambert. He'll boot it away from the 35 into a stiff breeze. Short kick, 17-yard line. Fuller to the 28. And Joy, you've been in this situation before, big leads. I'm not sure you've been up 56-14 at a half. But doesn't a coach usually just go through the usual routine to start the second half of play?
Oh, I would not be surprised to see Baylor march down the field again right now. They're not going to take their foot off the gas right now. That's the worst thing that you could do if you are Baylor is cash it in, because you need to learn how to play in the second half. You need to learn how to play coming out after halftime.
And to the middle of the field they go with Linwood. And he'll push it to the 32-yard line. I thought Art Briles kind of hit an interesting conversation with us. He told us, look, I don't really still know who we are.
He said we've only played a game and a half. I mean, you figure the majority of your starters don't play much after halftime in games against Buffalo, Wofford, and Louisiana Monroe. This Baylor offense really only has, what, 6 quarters of experience?
They had worked together 77 plays over the last month. In fact, 27 days until tonight, as Linwood gets the carry again up the middle. Let's get a dot downstairs. Here's Ryan Neese.
Greg, you made a great point. They haven't had a chance to get a lot of game reps. That's one of the reasons why this team has to continue to stay focused. When we met with Coach yesterday, that was one of the things he continued to preach. Hey, my team is hungry. We stay focused. We continue to compete. Well, now they got to apply it in this second half.
Good point. Jay Lee with the catch, far side, first down. They'll move the chains. Substitutions now as Briles brings in fresh receivers. And Petty lines up shotgun. Left side, Linwood. Broke a tackle. Second effort to the 50-yard line, a gain of 11. Will Clark with the tackle. Wind really swirling around here. Big hole again. This is a shock Linwood drive. Ryan Neese thought maybe you see the ball go to the air, but instead Art Briles going to get a little run and work out for Shock Linwood.
And they're doing a great job. Obviously, the offensive line is being aggressive. They're opening up holes. They're running some inside trap plays. They're sustaining this drive. It's a good job by the offense right now.
Boy, big chunks. Chafin. So Linwood, Seastrunk, Glasgow Martin. This is the fourth back tonight, Joey, we've seen in that backfield for Baylor.
You know, I would be surprised to see Lake, Seastrunk, and Glasgow Martin hang it up for the night. You know, it seems, you know, a little contradictory to what I just said a minute ago. It needed to come out after halftime. But I think the ability to have two healthy running backs late into the season, I mean, we're looking at mid-October. And this Baylor offense is still pretty fresh.
Flags down. Flag in that backfield. Ricky Rump with pressure.
Personal foul, blow to the head of the quarterback. Defense number 9. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That flag's on K.J. Dillon, number 9. Ron and Joey, both you guys, we've seen in this game particularly, probably of the games we've worked this year, more calls concerning player safety.
Yeah, Ryan, as a defensive player, does it inhibit your aggressiveness knowing that there's always that penalty in the back of your mind?
Joey, that's a great question. As a defensive player, you never want to be hesitant, but all of a sudden you start hurting your team with an aggressive play, lowering your head, putting your hands in the quarterback's head. That's the last thing that you want to do. So you have to think about it, but it's something that these teams are starting to practice every single day during the week.
Second down, Shock Linwood turns those feet. He is popped from behind at the 3-yard line. Will be first and goal, Baylor. And another Baylor first down. 30 first downs. And still over 10 minutes to play in the third quarter.
I think what's been impressive is they've been patient with the offense. They continue to run the ball inside.
Petty on a handoff. Close, just inside the 1. Was Tonkery, the spur linebacker, with the tackle. Well, one thing's for sure, Art Briles is using a lot of personnel tonight.
Well, he's going to get through the depth chart by the end of this fourth quarter.
Chafin slides in for 6. Impressive drive via the ground.
Don't be mistaken to think that Baylor is just an offensive team through the air. Yes, they lead the country in passing offense, but the reason they lead the country in total offense is because they're 5th in rushing at over 300 yards a game. The versatility of this Baylor offense is very impressive.
BAT is up and good. Aaron Jones working in the right leg tonight. Yeah, 307 on the ground, 444 through the air, 751 total. Explosive Baylor offense. Well, here they come just before the players hit the field. That's called the freshman line here at Baylor. All the freshmen line up with those jerseys, and they take the field, and you better watch out.
Did I see Batman in there? I think I saw Batman.
I think I saw an invitation for Erin Andrews to run with the line in November.
We'll have to let her know.
Hey, great tradition.
See if she puts on her track shoes.
Great tradition here in Waco. Remember that freshman year? Kind of anything goes, doesn't it?
Seems like forever.
At the goal line, Smallwood has a hole, closes quickly, and then spins out to the 25. I want to take you back 2 years. two weeks ago, Louisiana Monroe in town, and we put our own Ryan Neese on that Baylor line. Look at him on the breakaway. They would not allow him back on the field tonight. They said, forget it.
With the microphone in hand, it looked like he was running the first leg of the 4x1, about to pass the baton. I like it.
Hey, Ryan, they wouldn't let you back, would they?
They wouldn't let me back, Craig. I told them I wanted to come back, redeem myself, and, you know, obviously keep the belt on. I was a champ in that race right there, fellas. I was rolling.
That ball's out, covered up by Trickett. By the way, for Baylor, that last touchdown was the first allowed in the second half of this season. And I tell you, Neese, by the way, was high-fiving everybody after he pulled away on that Baylor line.
Well, I think he was just happy that he realized he could still run as fast as he could when he was in college.
And without pulling a hamstring.
Exactly. I felt him running me down a few times there when he was at UCLA, and that's pretty much what he looked like.
Trickett on a three-step drop. Once the home run, ball throws. Ball is in the hands of Goodson. Still on his feet. 35-yard line is where Baylor will take over. Dimitri Goodson, his first interception of the season.
Well, you keep throwing it, you keep throwing it, you keep throwing it, saying that eventually it's going to break and we're going to score a touchdown. Well, you know what? Eventually you're going to get picked off as well. I mean, he's thrown those balls with a lot of air, allowing his receiver to run under it, and he's trusting that he's going to run there. But if he doesn't, if there's a small miscommunication, you leave yourself really vulnerable for an interception like that, and that's what happened.
Now Baylor back on the field, and they've got a short field at the 35. Seth Russell is going to step in and play quarterback. Ball's out, picks it up, tries to sidestep trouble, and then taken down at the 41. Seth is a redshirt freshman out of Garland, Texas. Played at Garland High School. He's thrown 3 touchdowns this season. Been picked once. But again, a big frame like Petty, where he's sitting back, and like Petty, he's watching how Bryce Petty's running this offense.
Well, yeah, that's the key for Baylor quarterbacks now, is to learn, to watch. You know, you've had so many great examples of how to play in this offense.
The ball pops out after the catch at the 26. Tevin Reese from Russell. The ball came out, but he was whistled down. So third down short.
Third down.
What a night for Petty. He put together, really, Joey, almost
with the ball carrier.
2 football games of offense, on and a half. 347 through the air, a couple of touchdowns. 5 carries, by the way, a touchdown and 20 yards rushing.
Oh, God, that puts him at what? 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception of the season.
Quick throw, Coleman, and he swung under. Mountaineers get out there on coverage. Loss of 1. I'll bring up second down. In fact, we lost 2. Under 7 minutes to play third quarter.
Let's put these stats in context here. Bryce Petty has essentially played 8 quarters of football. This is her 4th game. In most games, he's been out just after halftime.
He's played 2 games.
And has 1,300 yards passing.
Chasing the ball carrier right side to the 25. Third down long. Well, he's a confident guy, which every quarterback has to be. But again, I don't think, and he knows Art Briles won't let him kind of get outside the edges a little bit with that confidence factor.
Yeah, he walked that line extremely well. Such an engaging guy.
Mountaineers show pressure. Ball's up for grabs. Contact flag at the goal line. In fact, there's another one back at the 20-yard line. Robbie Rhodes, the intended receiver, got tangled up with Travis Bell, number 26. Bill had a shoulder injury last year, you may remember, and was granted a red shirt.
There are fouls by both teams. Ineligible downfield on the pass, number 55 offense. Pass interference, defense, number 26. The foul's offset. Repeat third down.
So we'll replay third down.
Hey, Craig, I want to go back to Bryce Petty here for a second. Mammoth numbers through the air. I mean, fantastic numbers on the football field, but I'm so glad we got a chance to talk with him yesterday, just to see what a great, engaging, talkative, confident. I mean, I can see why people would be drawn to him as a leader, as a quarterback on this team.
Beautiful run was Russell. Works his way down inside the 20-yard line. Let's get a thought from Ryan Neese.
Well, obviously Bryce Petty has put up some gaudy numbers, but, you know, knock on wood, if he ever got hurt, you know, Seth Russell is going to be the guy to come in, and this is a luxury for offensive coordinator Montgomery and obviously head coach Bryles to get this backup quarterback some reps and some game reps. And this is important for him to continue to play well and move the offense effectively up and down the field.
This will be a 36-yard attempt. Aaron Jones, 1 of 2 on the season, his longest from 25. And the boot is up and good. 36-yarder. Baylor, 66. West Virginia, 21. Hey, last night our Fox crew went out to Temple, Texas to take in some Friday Night Lights. It's high school style down Texas way. The game between Temple and Midway. Joey there in the end zone. I think he wanted to coach. Ryan over there applauding things. It was a high-scoring affair. How about 63-43 final? Midway pulling away to beat Temple.
You know why we went to Temple?
Yeah.
The alma maters of
right
Lake
there.
Seastrunk and Tevin Reese. You know what, though? There's some talent on that field last night. Boy, Midway was an impressive football team.
Well, it's Texas football on a Friday night. Kick taken at the goal line, and West Virginia takes it back. Smallwood to the 31-yard line. You know, you go back and visit where it all started, those high school football fields, and Ryan, kind of gets the juices going, doesn't it?
It definitely gets the juices going. The Friday Night Lights, that was my first opportunity to watch Texas high school football in person, and it was impressive. I tell you what, it seemed like Baylor must be sharing their playbook with the offenses because those guys were flying up and down the field as well.
Football from high school, Little League, Pee Wee, all the way to the NFL. See what Chip Kelly actually accomplishes in Philadelphia, but kind of a morphing of football right now at all levels. As we see the spread, that high tempo offense.
It was really interesting to see high school kids running versions of this spread offense. But that seems to be the norm, not just in college football, but, you know, it trickles down to the lower levels.
Got a player down. That's Ahmad Dixon. Well, he is a speed demon, hard hitter, hometown player, Waco, Texas, Midway High School. So the trainers are out taking a look at Ahmad Dixon. And how about quickly a Lowe's Never Stop Improving game break. Here's Patrick O'Neill.
Appreciate it. Number 4, Ohio State. At number 16, Northwestern. Ohio State struggling on offense, but Carlos Hyde's a beast. He gets it in for the touchdown. Buckeyes trailing the Wildcats, though, in the fourth quarter by 3. We'll keep you updated. Craig and Joey, back to you.
Patrick, interesting. Could be a little upset on the road, and that streak of Urban Meyer.
The Fighting Pat Fitzgerald's old Northwestern team taking on the attitude of their coach.
Clock's under 5 minutes here in the third quarter. Trickett flips it back over. Vernon Davis has room. Nice cut. 50 to the 48-yard line. Cody Clay out there, the H-back, throwing a block to Spring Davis for a big gain. Got a little trickery in there, and Holgerson just did that for West Virginia.
I like that Coach Holgerson is still staying aggressive. Run their offense. Use it as game experience. Use it as a chance for all these new players to get comfortable with each other.
First down, 49-yard line. Quick hitter, Sims. Stutter steps, tries to hit the edge, does. Breaks a tackle, and is taken out of bounds near the 40-yard line. I got a question for you. You both saw Texas football. Ryan played in that California football bonanza. Ryan, who you give the edge to?
I'm a little biased to California, but obviously that's a debate. What state has the best high school athletes? And when you talk about Texas, you talk about Florida, you talk about California, there's so much speed, so much athleticism. But watching those guys on the field last night, I was very impressed. They were big, they were fast, they were strong, and they were very, very athletic. I'll tell you what, not only was I impressed, Joey, I know you were doing some self-scouting, but there was also D1 scouts out there floating around, you know, writing some names down, charting guys. And so obviously there was a lot of talent on that field last night.
Well, Ryan, you left out the fourth powerhouse of high school football. That's the state of Oregon, right? I know it's just an oversight.
Right, that was an oversight. I apologize.
Exactly,
I knew you would bring it up, though.
Well, exactly, yeah. I think we actually had less people go play D1 from the entire state than were on the field last night at that high school game.
And this crowd, despite the big lead, wants a stop here on third down. Cricket. And coverage. There's a bump for two, and a flag is thrown at the 15. Both players engaged. Kevin White trying to, again, out-jump Morton.
Automatic first down.
And they're going to throw the flag on K.J. Morton. He's 5'10", trying to go up against the 6'3", Kevin White.
Well, you know what? Anytime a receiver stops his route and a DB has his back to the quarterback, he's going to run into him. And when you create contact, it's going to be a penalty on the defense. I mean, it's almost advantageous to underthrow the ball if you're a quarterback, because it gives your receiver a chance to go up and make a play. And if that doesn't happen, at least the DB is going to run into it and you're getting 15 yards.
Morton just got the hook, and Xavier Howard, redshirt freshman, just took his spot on the field. Play action as Cricket throws over the top. Little trip. No flag, and completes the call at the 1-yard line. Joe Williams back on coverage.
Joey, defensive coordinator Phil Bennett might be a little frustrated right now. Obviously, one of his corners got a pass interference. We just saw a dropped interception right now. This defense has to remain focused. They got to find a way to stop this drive and get off the field.
I completely agree with that, and not necessarily for the score right now, but for building up a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of confidence, and a little bit of experience for down the road. You're going to see teams like Oklahoma State, like Oklahoma, chuck the ball all over the place, and not in a game when you're up by 40 points. When it's close, and they need these plays to be made.
Cricket had time, throws that ball a little high of Kevin White. Good coverage downfield by Baylor. I think that's really an interesting point about focus, because these scores, these blowouts that have occurred so far through the fourth game of this season, how do you remain focused through really 4 quarters of football? Right now, you've seen West Virginia come out and score on their opening drive. They're knocking on the door again. They're trying to put 28 points on the board. Cricket throws the ball, and it's low, caught 16-yard line by K.J. Myers.
Well, Craig, one of the ways you remain focused is you got to understand it's situational football right now. Obviously, that was a big third down. The defense needed to rise to the occasion. They got 4th down. They got to rise to the occasion right now and find a way to stop them from getting this first down.
Crowd's into it. Handoff. Right side goes Sims. And like a knife, he picks up 2 yards, first down at the 14-yard line.
You know, another way you stay in it, Ryan, is you create a sense of pride in the fact that they hadn't, until just now, they hadn't given up a touchdown in the second half. I mean, that's something to be proud of if you're a defense. That's something to hang your hat on. And I know you've been on teams where you may be up big and the starters on the sideline are yelling at the guys who are in there late in the second half to uphold that shutout. That's something the defense takes pride in.
Trickett shotgun again off the right side. Sims bangs his way to the 11.
Joe, you're absolutely right. I've been on plenty of defenses when you're pitching a shutout, or you've had a streak of games where you're pitching shutouts. This is their time right now. Once again, they're over there talking about it. They understand what how well they've been playing. And again, this defense sometimes gets overshadowed by the offense. If they continue to play well, people are going to start talking about this defense more and more.
West Virginia trying to pick on freshman D-tackle Byron Bonds, number 96. In zone up top, in coverage, and knocked away. Knocked away by Orion Stewart. Redshirt freshman who backs up Ahmad Dixon, who was shaken up earlier on this drive.
Warren Stewart did a great job breaking up that pass. He came over, read the quarterback's eyes. He had a chance to make the interception, but he did a good job batting that ball away.
3rd down 8. A first down marker just past the 5-yard line. Trickett again, shotgun, hands it off up the middle, goes Sims. And he's knocked down just inside the 10, the 9-yard line. I'd say the key for Sims in this second half, you mentioned it's space. You get a little wiggle room and watch out.
This guy's a tough runner. He's a tough downhill runner who's got a little bit of shape to him.
No, he stands tall, too. He runs like an Eric Dickerson. Standing straight up.
Absolutely. I was going to say that Eddie George is who reminds me of that.
Sorry,
big,
Eddie. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep it in house, Craig.
Got to keep it in house. 4th down. Trickett to the end zone. Ball tipped away, incomplete. And so Baylor, with a little bit of a makeshift secondary and front line, holds on a 4th down. 40 seconds left, 3rd quarter. Baylor up big on West Virginia. Back in Waco, Floyd Casey Stadium. Not a lot to argue about tonight for Baylor fans. Craig Bowler, Jack Joey Harrington, Ryan Neese alongside here tonight on Fox Sports 1. So there's been moments. I like the fact that Trickett, I think you'll agree, Joey, has shown a lot of toughness. He's answered the bell not once, twice, maybe 3 times tonight.
not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. And we showed that graphic earlier in the first half about how many times he'd been knocked down. Only been sacked twice, but boy, has he just been knocked around like a punching bag in that backfield. He just keeps on getting up.
Second down. Ball is out. Picked up and thrown away. Seth Russell was trapped right at the goal line. And we talked about the pressure, the chaos that has surrounded Clint Trickett.
Yeah, he has been on his back. Even when he's throwing touchdowns, he watches the end zone, or watches the play from the ground there. You know, this young man came into the game with a dinged up shoulder. You could see him during the game favoring that right side, you know, answering the phone with his left hand.
7 hits and 4 knockdowns. 3rd down long. Shockwood. Ball is out, but he's out of bounds. Shock. Linwood breaks it down to the 32-yard line.
It doesn't matter if you're a starter, a backup, a 3rd-string guy here at Baylor. You're going to have opportunities to run in space, and they just have an unlimited amount of talent, it seems like, at all positions here right now.
But a false start.
Number 60, 5-yard penalty.
They whistle that on the left guard, Laquan McGowan. You know what I probably noticed the most is the ability of this Baylor offense, both receivers and running backs, to break out of tackles. You cannot arm or shoe tackle this team.
Very, very strong runs.
Prior to the snap, that's the expiration of the third quarter.
Well, the officials step in. Third quarter had wound down before the snap. 15 minutes left in Waco. Baylor attacking West Virginia from all angles. 66-21 on Fox Sports 1. Oh, Baylor's freshman class having a good time as we look at tonight's game summary brought to you by Ford Service. Total yards 750 for Baylor, 261 for West Virginia. For the Bears, 7 different players with touchdowns, and once again over 60 points in a ball game
against a conference team. That's the impressive part, is you did it against Louisiana Monroe and Buffalo and Wofford. Now you got 66 and you're knocking on the door again against a Big 12 team.
Seth Russell on a handoff. Linwood, who just had that big run, breaks a tackle and is thrown down 33-yard line. Linwood, Dijon backs, second, third effort. How tough. You know, a lot of times too, Joey, as you know, you're judged by yards after contact, and I think he's going to rank pretty high tonight.
Yeah, both he learned by watching Lake Seastrong, who was breaking out of tackles all night. You know, there are very small holes for running backs to run through in that offensive line, and it's about getting through that first line and then making somebody miss.
Well, blistering tonight. Seastrong, 15 carries, 172 yards. That's over 11 yards a touch, 2 touchdowns. Goodley had 7 grabs, 170. Reese, 3 catches for 73 yards. Before Art Briles put them on the bench for a breather. Big hole right side, and running right through it is Chafin, number 28. Jared Barber with the tackle, the Will linebacker. Would you talk about Seastrong and Heisman discussions this coming week?
I think his name works into the discussion. You know, so often the award is given based on your performances against the best teams, and Baylor hasn't played the best teams yet, but I don't think you can discount what he has done, what both he and Bryce Petty have done up to this point in the season.
Russell throws as he is swarmed under back at the 35-yard line. Let me ask you this, because some will say maybe we are looking at the best in Big 12 football.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that Baylor has the potential, has the very realistic potential to win the Big 12. You know, they've shown up to this point that they are an improved defense from last year, because that was their Achilles heel, is the ability to stop somebody. Are they improved enough to hold Oklahoma, to hold Oklahoma State? We'll see in November. But offensively, Baylor can sure as heck play with anybody in this conference.
Linwood to the 19-yard line. Right now, Joey, you believe A.J. McCarron, Hundley, we saw, hang on Thursday night against Utah. And Johnny Football stays off your top 4.
Yeah, these are my Heisman contenders right now, probably the top on the list. You know, Johnny Football won the Heisman last year because of his performance against Alabama. People gave it to him because of his performance in the big game, and frankly, they lost to Alabama. So I wouldn't put him on that list right now. That's not to say that down the road, when they play some more big games against LSU, that he won't work his way back onto, you know, my list, which, you know, what kind of weight does that carry? But that being said, you know, you can't look past a guy like A.J. McCarron, who in that game against Texas A&M happened to go for 280 and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions. I mean, the play of these other quarterbacks has been, I think, above that of the play of Johnny Manziel.
Jones wants a field goal try at 37. He's got it, and it's up and no good. So 12-14 remaining here in Waco. And well, they're thinking Heisman for Lake Seastrong. They've got the pose down in Waco. 66-21 Bears. Next Saturday, the American League's two best teams will look to their brightest stars in the American League Championship Series as they try to move on one step closer to the World Series. Legends born in October, and our coverage of baseball's postseason begins next Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, with Game 1 of the ALCS. Only on Fox. Boston, by the way, leads this series 2-0. Tigers up 1-0.
Family in Charlestown is, I'm sure, happy about that one.
Oh, what a pick. Reaching out, Prince Kent. Can I say it? What a prince of an interception.
Offside.
We've got an offsides call.
Defense, number 2.
So bring it back.
5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
That's a stretch out. Stretching out, Prince Kent.
It's a shame that that penalty negated your great call on the interception. I mean,
on a cool night in Waco on a 66-21 game, you've got to just kind of dig down deep. First and 5. Over the top. What a catch. Shorts went up high and made that grab and works his way down inside the 50 at the 47-yard line. Da'Keel Shorts, freshman out of Clayton, New Jersey, played at Eastern Christian Academy last year. Only played in 3 high school games last season, Joey, because of injury, and they found themselves a good player.
yeah, they did. Tough catch over the middle. I mean, a lot of receivers would shy away from that ball. And if you go alligator arms on that and get a little short, that ball can be intercepted. A very nice catch in traffic.
11.5 minutes remaining, 4th quarter. Trying to set up the screen, and they dump it down. It's Millard who throws it into the ground.
Number 2 was in the area.
Well, the crowd wanted intentional ground, and we've seen that call a couple of times this year. But the referee, Reggie Smith, was quick to say that there was a player in the vicinity. That was number 2, Dreamus Smith.
Well, yeah, when you're throwing a screen like that, you can just chuck it into the ground. That's the smart call. Just throw it at the guy's feet.
Second down 10. Quick throw near side.
Watch the ball, get the ball.
Kevin White's been busy tonight. Another grab. They'll mark him out. 44-yard line.
Complete to Kevin White. Tackled by Ryan Reed.
Ryan Reed made the tackle. Redshirt freshman out of Sherman, Texas. Smallwood and Smith in the backfield. Millard deep. On the hands of Carswell. Touchdown.
What catch?
There was contact just around the 5-yard line. No flag came out. And Carswell came away with the ball and the touchdown.
Now watch, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a little bit of push. From our angle, it looked like there was some separation. And he caught that ball right behind the defender. Watch him going up the sideline here. Maybe give a little shove. Well, maybe, you know, incidental contact. But great concentration. Very nice throw and catch.
Carswell with his second touchdown reception of the season out of Macon, Georgia. Dana Holgerson and the Mountaineers continue to work their way. Trying to get back, but they're a long way from getting there. 66-28, Baylor. Well, if you come to Waco, Texas, you got to stop by VTEX for some barbecue. Our crew stopped by there last night before heading out for some high school football. Ribs, turkey, chicken. Then you jump on the shuttle and you make your way over to the stadium. That's the way you do it here in Waco, Texas. And then, of course, Joey Harrington has to bring along a oh, what do you got there?
It's a gut pack.
A gut pack.
It's a gut pack. There's Fritos in it, baby. Everything. It's a cornucopia. As our producer PT said, it's a cornucopia of barbecue.
By chance, is there an extra sausage I could have, or some brisket?
Here you go.
Oh, there. Very good. Very good. Thank you, my friend. Yes. VTEX. Don't let me bother you, by the way.
Don't worry. You can take this. I've said that there's Fritos in it. You can take this game for a minute. I'm eating.
There's under 11 minutes left. Baylor 66, West Virginia 28. And Baylor starts at the 28. I will say this, Ryan Neese ate his share last night at VTEX.
Hey, Ryan, you got any VTEX down on the field there?
No, I'm a little jealous of you guys right now up there talking about how good that food is. You need to throw me a sausage down, Joey. I know you can hit me from up there.
Where are you? Where are you? Hold on.
See me right here.
Give me a wave. I got you. All right.
That's about a 60-yard toss. You can do that.
Go to the other, Ryan, go to the other end zone. I can play the wind.
There you go.
I'm throwing into the wind that direction.
I'm surprised you set down that fork.
I'm a professional,
hey,
I'm
Ron,
a professional.
He's not done yet.
There's still at least 3 commercials left in this quarter. Come on.
Baylor goes back to work. That ball picked off. Picked off midfield. Darwin Cook with his 4th interception of the season. You talked about the pedal. Maybe Baylor's let off of that gas a little bit. And Darwin Cook with his 4th pick. Jared Barber tipped that ball, and it's the old Oski drill. Cook's got it. West Virginia back with the football after this break on Fox Sports 1. So we keep it here. We're going to keep it here so you can have some more barbecue.
Okay. That actually cuts into my gut pack time. I was banking on that commercial. That's why I wasn't saying anything. I was, I was anticipating the commercial. That's my fault.
Paul Millard goes back to work after that interception at the 33-yard line. 2 wides near side. A little delay. Nice stutter step. Dreamer Smith. Up the middle he goes and takes a couple of Baylor Bears with him to the 14-yard line. Orion Stewart rode him down. Dreamus Smith out of Wichita, Kansas via Butler Community College.
Craig, take a look. Don't take a look.
Quick throw near side. Sims thrown out of bounds back at the 8-yard line.
There we go. Let's get this going. Take a look at the receiver here. You can't, oh boy, you can't turn it down. We talked about it a minute ago. West Virginia's wide receiver went across the middle of the field, and had he pulled back, the ball would have been intercepted, and instead he went up and made a great catch and tough catch in traffic. This time the freshman receiver from Baylor pulls back, anticipating getting hit, and that ball gets intercepted.
Charles Sims lines up, the lone back. Under center goes Millard. Runs into Sims, now slings it to the end zone. That ball is out of bounds. Just a busted play as Millard hits Sims on the rollout. 9:23 left. And that brings up 3rd down and short. Call it 2.
You know, the fact that we're still calling Sims' name, the fact that Cook is making the interception, it tells me how much experience this West Virginia team needs. I mean, they've just got to get game experience. They need to work together. Not very often you'd see these guys still in the field.
From the eye, Sims crashes and looks to have the 1st down. He needed to just past the 5, and they'll mark him at the 4-yard line. Behind the left guard, Marquise Lucas. First and goal. Clock runs up on 9 minutes left. The 66-28 game. West Virginia using this second half to work on their offense. Up the middle again goes Sims.
Craig, every one of their starters is still in for, with the exception of Clint Trickett, who is, it's been documented, he got beat up pretty good today, and I'm sure coach said, you know what, let's just get you to the sideline. But every one of their starters at the skill positions are still in there because they simply need reps. They have to get experience. They have to get game experience in this offense.
8.5 minutes left. Second down, goal. Millard throws and through the hands of Kevin White.
Oh, he's going to watch this in the film room and say, really kick himself. That's a ball he's got to have. That's a catch he has to make.
And he's made those catches tonight. Third down goal. A large shotgun, quick throw, timing pattern up top. That ball is tipped and got a flag. A lot of contact. Carswell battling with the freshman Xavier Howard.
Pass interference, defense, number 18. Automatic first down.
Joey, they whistled the redshirt freshman. You can hear that wind blowing through Reggie Smith's microphone. It's been that way all night long.
I don't need to hear the wind. I can feel it up here in the press box. It was the right call. Had a fistful of jersey. The ball was in the air. That's the right call.
First and goal, 1 yard line. Quick throw, another timing pattern up top. On the hands, touchdown White. Kevin White's big target, Joey. I think you'd like throwing to the 6'3" wide out, number 11. And all of a sudden, 66-34, PAT to come.
Well, yeah, White's gone up and made a couple very nice catches. Gone up and high-pointed the ball. Big physical receiver. The kind of guy you like to have down in the red zone. Big target.
White 7 catches, 130 yards and a couple of touchdowns tonight. He's been a bright spot for West Virginia's offense. The PAT is up and good. Well, remember, West Virginia came in with an impressive defense. They've allowed just 7.7 points a game. Tonight, they've allowed 35. Well, here's what's coming ahead for Baylor next week. We'll be in Manhattan, Kansas on Fox for Baylor and Kansas State. Then it's Iowa State on the 19th. That's a home game. Then back to Lawrence in Kansas against the Jayhawks, Charlie Weiss and company. They're back home to take on now the 11th ranked Sooners of Oklahoma.
That's going to be the first real test. Their first road test is obviously going to be next week with us on Fox at Kansas State. Going on the road for the first time is always tough.
It's amazing. You and I were speaking that this schedule with 2 bye weeks sandwiched in between one game of Louisiana Monroe, front and back. That's the first road game in mid-October.
Mid-October before you go on the road.
Number 22, first down.
You know, opening Big 12 plays one thing, but playing a road game against the reigning Big 12 champs is another. Granted, no Colin Klein, no Arthur Brown. Kansas State lost a tough one today to Oklahoma State. Not the team they were a year ago.
No, but you're still in Manhattan.
Yes.
And it's a tough place to play. We saw Texas go into Ames on Thursday night, and they were in for a battle. So anytime you go on the road in the Big 12, it's going to be a tough ball game.
Just under 8 minutes remaining. Petty has been done for about a quarter now. And Seth Russell's taken over at quarterback. Play clock to 7. Shoestring tackle. Time for a game break. Let's go back to Los Angeles and check in with Patrick.
Well, Ohio State sure faced a tough test at Northwestern, but Carlos Hyde was beast mode, 168 yards, 3 touchdowns. Right now it's 34-30 Ohio State, seconds left. They should hang on for their 18th straight victory. Craig and Joey.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Put 18 in a row in perspective in this day and age of college football.
The closest thing I can think of, and it was about, well, what, 13 years ago, was Miami. The team under Larry Coker, Kenny Dorsey, Clinton Portis, Andre Johnson, Jeremy Shockey. You know, they had some studs come off of those Miami teams there. Kellen Winslow, Jonathan Vilma, Ed Reed. The list goes on, but that was a stacked Miami group. And I don't think we've seen that type of winning streak since that Miami team.
All played on Sunday, by the way. First down Baylor after the catch. Inside they go, big run, breaking it. Here comes Chafin. Barrels his way past the 10. How about laying the shoulder pad down to the 7-yard line and follow the block? Kyle Fuller, the center, open it up. And a 1st and goal for Baylor. Been a quiet 4th quarter to this point. Baylor up 66-35. School record tonight. How about 832 yards of total offense? They were flirting, what, 750 at halftime? And a walk-in touchdown, Russell. Add to that total, put another touchdown on the board. Maybe Art Briles challenged that offense to wake up a little bit late here in the 4th.
You know, with the good teams, that challenge doesn't have to come from the head coach. That challenge, like we talked about earlier, comes from the starters on defense, comes from Bryce Petty, comes from the Lake C. Strunks. On the great teams, the starters will challenge those backups to be just as good as they were.
PAT is good, 73-35. Baylor. Hey, time for our Right Stuff player of the game. How about co-players of the game? Presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Seastrunk and Linwood tonight. 29 carries, 298 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Couldn't get the last 2? Couldn't get 2 more yards to get to 300?
Not quite there.
Coming up short.
Short kick. Davis breaks a tackle and another, and is stopped at the 30-yard line. Well, really, that award could have gone to the entire Baylor offense, both first and second teams. With the offensive explosion we witnessed tonight, 73 points, school record in total yards, 839, 36 first downs in this game, and 8 different players scored touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the most impressive thing to me. 6 guys had touchdowns at halftime, which tells me you cannot key on one player. And when you have the type of explosive players at every position, God, it makes it so difficult to defend.
Still some trickery up the sleeve of Dana Holgerson. Little pitch back out to Vernon Davis. You know, it was interesting when you talk about the 8 different players that have scored. It goes back to that conversation that we had with Bryce Petty. We like to show but not tell, which means you really can't zero in on anyone.
Well, yeah, I asked him what was, in one word, describe what your job is as quarterback at Baylor. He said operation.
Yeah.
I said, what does that mean? He said, get it to my teammates. I don't have to do it all myself. And that's the great part about being a part of a team like this, as a quarterback, you don't feel at all like you have to carry the team. I mean, here's a great example. Keith Price, quarterback at Washington, 2 years ago was a breakout player as a sophomore. People were talking about him like crazy. And then Chris Polk leaves early, goes to the NFL. Curse, his wide receiver, leaves. Playing for the Seahawks now. Loses a couple of linemen, and all of a sudden, Keith feels like he has to do it all himself. He forces, he turns the ball over, and then people were questioning, well, what happened to Keith Price? Well, nothing. He's the same guy he was. He just tried to do too much. Now he's got Bishop Sankey, he has Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and he's playing fantastic football because he's playing within himself instead of trying to do it all.
West Virginia flares it out of the backfield to Sims, short of the first down at the 39-yard line. That stops the clock under 4 minutes, 3:53 to play. That brings up 4th down and 1. And West Virginia will punt away. First FBS team since 1930, 20 points. 70, that is, in 3 straight games.
It would have been 4 had they not called off the Dogs in the first one.
That punts inside the 5. Good coverage to the 1-yard line. Fox Sports Supports is proud to partner with Johns Hopkins Medicine. Johns Hopkins is at the forefront of groundbreaking research into autoimmune disorders like multiple sclerosis and lupus. Join us in the fight against autoimmune disease. Donate by visiting hopkinsmedicine.org/Fox. One of the great medical facilities in our country. I'll tell you what, 2 weeks ago it was a hot night in Waco. Tonight it has turned a little chilly.
Not gonna lie, I'm a little cold up here.
Yeah, it is at least a 40-degree difference than it was 2 weeks ago. Baylor starts his drive 3-yard line. And to the middle of West Virginia's front goes Devin Chafin. Kyle Rhodes with the knockdown tackle. So next week, Art Briles will take on Kansas State in Manhattan. That ball floats and is picked off. And then a lateral goes out. And West Virginia will trot in for 6 more off the pick. How about that? Darwin Cook takes it in for a touchdown. Thank you to the little lateral from Travis Bell.
I actually really like to see this. If I'm a West Virginia coach, I'm not encouraged by the score of the game, but I'm encouraged by the way your team has continued to fight.
How does Art Briles take 41 points?
I don't know that you worry about it too much. I think you need to continue to work on your focus from your second group.
PAT is good at the 3-minute mark, 73-42. Let me remind you, it was 70-63 in Morgantown last year. And the scoring onslaught continues. Don't forget, Fox Sports 1 starts off your Sunday mornings with Fox NFL Kickoff. The guys will get you up to speed in all that's happening around the NFL. Then turn over to Fox to catch America's #1 pregame show. Fox NFL Sunday, you'll hear from Colts quarterback Andrew Luck. All about the Colts' strong start. Football tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports and Fox Sports 1.
You know, Craig, back to your question a second ago. The defense has only given up 28 points. The Baylor defense. The muff punt for a touchdown. The interception for a touchdown. And so I think I would agree with the earlier statement, my earlier statement, that if I'm Art Briles, I'm not too worried about it.
Well, you go back and you take a look at this film, and I don't know how much West Virginia will study or how much Baylor will take a look. There's an onside kick. That ball is out. West Virginia has it at the 39-yard line. Now, here is something I did not expect. Boos coming from Baylor fans.
I think they're booing West Virginia for kicking the onside. I think they're booing the fact that they just want Baylor to get the ball back.
Has to go 10. Just crossed that line, and the ball pops. Yep, it went about 11.
Hit him right in the face mask and bounce away.
I got to tip my hat to Coach Holgorsen. I mean, there's been no quit. He has not allowed this team to quit. He's also called some nifty plays along the way.
Oh, yeah, he's gone into his playbook, throwing that reverse in there a couple times in the second half.
Thompson with the catch over the middle.
Coach Holgorsen wants to use this as positive game experience.
Under 3 minutes left. West Virginia on the move again at the 45, fresh downs. Millard on a handoff. He'll give it to Smith. And Dreama Smith is out of bounds. 41-yard line. Stops the clock at the 2:37 mark. Hurry up offense. 3 wide receivers near side. Play action. On the pocket goes Millard, throws, and it bounces incomplete. Now there's a late flag. Penalty marker down, 45-yard line.
Personal foul, targeting, offense number 57, a hit on a defenseless player. That's a 15-yard penalty. Repeat the down, and by rule, number 57 has disqualified himself from the game.
That's Adam Pankey, redshirt freshman right tackle. Well,
boy,
we saw a similar play reversed.
And here's the difference. On the earlier play up the sideline by Cook, he was going in to make a tackle, and there was incidental contact helmet to helmet.
So the review now goes upstairs.
I think this one's going to be different, because he peeled back to make a play, make a hit on a defenseless player, and he went and he hit him in the head. And I think by the rule as it stands right now, this is going to be upheld. And not only is he going to be kicked out now, but he's going to miss. He's going to be ineligible for the first 2 quarters of next week's ball game. Could prove to be a very costly penalty.
Again, the replay official, Mike Angelis. And he came up. Let's see here if he actually, the target on the helmet.
Well, there's no question that it's square helmet to helmet.
Here's the call.
After further review, the ruling on the field of targeting is confirmed. Number 57 is disqualified from the game.
And for the second half, or pardon me, for the first half of next week's game against Texas Tech. All about protecting players. Now second down, 22 after the penalty of 15 yards. Quick throw far side. And drop down at the 50-yard line is KJ Myers. Well, the last 2 meetings Offense aplenty. Baylor's put 136 up against West Virginia. 112 for the Mountaineers. 70-63 in Morgantown tonight. 73-42. That ball floated away off the hand of Millard. Kevin White, the intended receiver. Out of bounds, brings up 4th down with 1:36 to play. Dana Holgorsen stay with Trickett. What do you think about Millard's play here in the second half? I know it's a little different scheme. Plus, you took on a lot of substitutions, second and third teamers for Baylor.
I think that the injury is going to have something to do with it. I think Cody Trickett's health will be a factor.
I would agree. Jamal Palmer came in untouched and just collected his 2nd sack of the season. And Holgorsen is out there barking. So here's what's ahead for West Virginia. Red Raiders at Texas Tech, followed by the Wildcats. That's a road game in Manhattan. TCU in Fort Worth. And then a home game against Texas. That is not an easy schedule ahead.
No, it's not. Texas Tech. Under Coach Cliff Kingsbury's a very good football team. Played a great defensive game against TCU a few weeks ago. Something you never expect to hear out of a Texas Tech football team. But they've got a tough defensive game at TCU. And for an offense that really hasn't found any rhythm with any quarterback, that could be a tough task ahead.
We talked about the emotions. I mean, there's no quit in Dana Holgorsen. Upset with that sack. And he has really helped this team fight back to put 42 on the board.
He's acting like a head coach should. You know what? Every time his team is out there, he wants to put out a good product. And he wants to make sure that they're doing everything right and learning, using it as good game experience.
Another minute left. Now flag's out.
Full start, offense, number 3. That's a 5-yard penalty by rule because the clock was running under 1 minute. This requires a 10-second runoff.
The crowd was cheering the 10-second runoff. Now we know why they were booing the onside kick earlier.
Well,
so I think they're colder than we are.
Most of the crowd that remains is the Baylor band and about half the freshman class that made a run on here about nearly 4 hours ago.
Well, you got the parents over on this side who's sticking around to see their kids after the game. They see the freshmen over there because they don't know any better.
It's a Saturday night in Waco, right?
There's something going on campus, right?
Webb just got the call. There's a couple of 14s dressed out tonight, and that's Anthony Webb. How about that play with a second left? Now the clock runs out, and this one ends. Baylor stays unbeaten at 4-0. And West Virginia now 3-3 on the year. For Joey Harrington, Ryan Neese, Craig Bullerjack, we say good night from Waco. 73-42. You've been watching Fox College Football right here on Fox Sports 1. Let's take you to LA for Fox Sports Live with Don Bell, Ryan Field, which starts right now.